Chapter 15:13. For Blood Fairy, suppressing Yu Qingtian was not a big deal. If Yu Qingtian wanted to come out, he would have to move out bit by bit. He had to rely on the super strong shield to stop the mountain. Blood Fairy did not have complete control of the mountain, but she could move it to a certain distance. Therefore, she told Lu Li to focus on healing and that she would report to Yu Qingtian as soon as possible if anything happened. Yu Qingtian was injured, but not seriously. Yu Qingtian's abilities were remarkable to be able to survive 2 bolts of Wrath of Thor. At the critical moment, he released that yellowish shield to block off most of the thunderbolts. That was why he was not injured. Otherwise, even though he was a supreme warrior in the divinity and had a strong body, he would still be injured. After a moment of rest, Yu Qingtian released the yellowish shield again. He was only at the edge of the mountain. Therefore, he wanted to get out as soon as possible and skin Lu Li. That was the only way to vent his anger. He had been overthinking when he lifted the divine mountain up, it suddenly moved at high speed, moving dozens of miles in an instant. Then, it came crashing down. Even though Yu Qingtian had moved for hundreds of feet, he realized that he was at the center of the mountain. How is this possible? Yu Qingtian's face was pressed against the ground. His eyes were wide open, filled with disbelief. Just now, when the mountain flew away, Yu Qingtian could understand that there was something wrong with the inhibition formations. But now, the mountain moved on its own and pressed Yu Qingtian to the center. Clearly, something was wrong. Someone was controlling the mountain? Did the mountain let Lu Li go on purpose to suppress him? Yu Qingtian was even more shocked when he came to this conclusion. The 5 mountains had existed since the ancient demon's burial ground came into being. They had always been in the Misty Soul Mountain. No one had ever been able to control the 5 divine mountains. There had been experts who had set their sights on the 5 divine mountains, but they had all failed on the verge of success. Was it Lu Li who was controlling the mountains? But how many years had it been since Lu Li ascended? Also, he had been pressed down and did not do anything. Yu Qingtian had been trying to sense Lu Li's situation but did not notice anything strange. If it was not Lu Li, then was there a mysterious warrior helping Lu Li? But if there were powerful warriors nearby, how could Yu Qingtian not sense it? Supreme warriors in the divinity had strong senses. If there were powerful warriors nearby, Yu Qingtian would have sensed it. Since that was the case, what was the problem? Yu Qingtian couldn't figure it out. The restrictions here had been set up for many years, so it was impossible for the tomb guards to be here. Even if there were such puppets, why would they help Lu Li? Yu Qingtian had a headache. Cold sweat trickled down his forehead. After pondering for a moment, he decided to continue breaking out of the encirclement. Firstly, he wanted to see if he could get out. Secondly, he wanted to confirm if this divine mountain was really controlled by someone. He was deliberately suppressing him. Boom! He used the shield to support it, and then his body suddenly shot forward, covering more than 300 meters in one go. The backlash from the divine mountain had weakened a little, allowing him to travel a little further. This time, there was no movement from the sacred mountain. Yu Qingtian was slightly excited. He ignored the injuries on his body and continued moving. Once, twice, 10 times. Yu Qingtian spent 10 days and successfully moved 5 miles. There was no movement from the divine mountain. This ignited his passion. If he could get out, he could kill Lu Li easily. He had been sensing that Lu Li was outside the mountain. Continue. Yu Qingtian moved with all his might. He didn't hesitate to consume his origin blood essence and top-level healing pellet. He was worried that things might change after Lu Li was healed. Therefore, he must get out as soon as possible. 3 days later, Yu Qingtian moved another 1.5 miles. Right at that moment, he heard a muffled voice. Yu Qingtian, you must be tired. Do you need me to help you? Lu Li. Yu Qingtian's heart skipped a beat upon hearing the voice. He had a bad feeling. Finally, something had gone wrong. As soon as Luli finished his words, the mountain began to move along the ground. It moved forward for several miles, and Yuqingtian was back at the center of the mountain. Yuqingtian couldn't help but swear despite his shrewdness. What he worried about the most had happened. Luli could control the mountain. Yuqingtian was scared. If Luli could control the mountain again and again, he would be crushed to death no matter how strong his defense was. Wait! Soon, Yuqingtian was relieved. The mountain could not fly too high or else he could fly out in an instant. Luli would not do such a stupid thing. Since the mountain could not fly too high, then the mountain's gravity would not crush him to death. On this thought, Yuqingtian was relieved. Then, his face turned gloomy. He had been too careless this time. Half a month ago, Luli was trapped down there and Yuqingtian was outside. The tables had turned. The tables had turned. Now, he was on the bottom like a dead dog, and Luli was on the outside. How long will I be trapped here this time? Will Luli keep me here forever? Yuqingtian thought of many possibilities. After a moment, he calmed down a bit. Luli could not stay here forever. As long as Luli left, the mountain would not be able to hold him down anymore. Yuqingtian could figure out a way to get out. How can Luli control the mountain? Yuqingtian could not figure it out. He found Luli more and more enigmatic. Luli deserved his fame. Since Luli could make such a name in the divinity, he must not be underestimated. Yuqingtian had the chance to kill Luli. However, he did something stupid which led to his current situation. Luli did not mind Yuqingtian. Instead, he talked to Blood Fairy. Blood Fairy, do you have a way to kill Yuqingtian? If he could kill a supreme warrior in the divinity, Luli would have a greater sense of achievement. Yuqingtian was his archenemy. Naturally, Luli would not miss the chance to kill him. Not now. Blood Fairy replied, which disappointed Luli. I cannot control the mountain completely. This man is very strong. I don't even have the courage to fly the mountain, or he will run away at once. The mountain's gravity alone cannot crush him to death. Then do you have a way to control the mountain completely? Luli asked after some thoughts. No. Blood Fairy replied. To control the mountain completely, you may have to do it in person. The God Mountain was actually a magic treasure, a very powerful magic treasure. Moreover, the God Mountain had a certain level of spirituality. There should be an artifact spirit inside the God Mountain. If one wanted to completely control the God Mountain, they would need to subdue this artifact spirit. I am a spiritual being, and I cannot tame other spiritual beings. You must do it in person. A powerful artifact? Is it really the primordial treasure? Luli's eyes glowed. If it really was the primordial treasure, his abilities would soar. He might not be able to kill a supreme warrior in the divinity, but he would at least have the ability to fight against an average supreme warrior in the divinity. Fight against a supreme warrior in the divinity? All of a sudden, Luli was excited. If he could fight against a supreme warrior in the divinity, would it mean that he could go back to the divinity? Chapter 15-14. Soon, Luli calmed down. He realized that he had been overthinking. So what if he could take control of the mountain? The mountain could only contain one supreme warrior in the divinity, but it could not kill one. How many supreme warriors in the divinity were there among the 4 supreme gods? How many were more powerful than Yuqingtian? For example, could the mountain suppress the master of the craftsman's sect? Anyways, Luli was determined to get the sacred mountain. He and Blood Fairy began to talk about how to take control of the mountain. Blood Fairy reached out a tentacle and pierced it into Luli's soul. She transmitted what she sensed and what she did in the mountain to Luli. Luli closed his eyes to digest the information. 2 hours later, he finally understood what had happened to Blood Fairy. Previously, he and Blood Fairy studied the formations in the mountain. Lu Li's understanding of laws in heaven and earth and Blood Fairy's unique skills in formations made Lu Li able to understand the formations in the mountain quickly. As a result, Blood Fairy's understanding of the formations in the mountain was progressing fast. It could be said that Lu Li and Blood Fairy were a perfect match. Without Blood Fairy's help, Lu Li would not be able to control the mountain. Without Lu Li's help, Blood Fairy would not have been able to do it either because she had no understanding of laws in heaven and earth. Blood Fairy cracked a formation and entered the core area of the mountain. That was where the key to control the mountain was. Blood Fairy fused with the formation, and with a few tweaks, she was able to control the mountain. Blood Fairy could alter formations, but only 1 or 2 lines. Therefore, it was impossible for her to control the mountain completely. There was an artifact spirit in the mountain. That being could control all the formations. Only by taming that artifact spirit could the mountain be controlled. How to tame the artifact spirit? That was a big problem. If it were not for Blood Fairy, Lu Li would have thought that it would be impossible to achieve. The artifact spirit was hiding in the deepest part of the mountain. To tame the artifact spirit, Lu Li must find it. Did Lu Li go to the deepest part of the mountain? The mountain was terrifyingly strong. Not even Yu Qingtian could crack the mountain with his strongest attack, let alone Lu Li. Otherwise, Yu Qingtian would not have been trapped down there. Since he couldn't go in, how could he subdue the artifact spirit hidden inside? Could it be that it was muttering, "Artifact spirit, come out quickly. I'll take you to eat something good?" Or was he trying to coerce and bribe the artifact spirit? If he did that, Lu Li felt that it would be an insult to his intelligence. Fortunately, Lu Li had Blood Fairy, who was also a spiritual being. She could enter and exit the mountain freely. If he wanted to subdue the spirits in the Divine Mountain, he would need Blood Fairy's help. Of course, Blood Fairy could not do it herself. She needed Lu Li to figure out a way. Lu Li sat down and began to think. After all, there was no need to worry about Yu Qingtian. With Blood Fairy keeping an eye on him, Yu Qingtian would not be able to do anything. Lu Li thought about it for a long time. He even took out some clean water to wash off the blood and put on a clean robe. Finally, he let Qi Shi'er out from the wicked bead. It had been a long time since they last met. Lu Li was afraid that she would let her imagination run wild. "Brother!" Qi Shi'er exclaimed happily as soon as she came out. Her nose twitched as she asked, "What's that smell? Does it smell like blood?" Lu Li had just taken a bath nearby. He was covered in blood. Naturally, the smell of blood was strong. His wounds had basically healed. There was nothing wrong with his appearance. Only his face was a bit pale. Lu Li explained with a smile, "There is indeed the smell of blood. There is a man under the mountain, Yu Qingtian of the Overlord's mansion." "Who? Yu Qingtian?" Qi Shi'er was a simple girl, but she had heard a lot about the southwest of the land of Yuyan. She asked in surprise, "That Yu Qingtian?" "Yes." Lu Li patted Qi Shi'er's silky hair and said, "Okay, don't ask so many questions now. I have to figure out a way to take control of the mountain and then suppress Yu Qingtian completely. Sit next to me and cultivate." "Okay." Qi Shi'er sat on the side obediently. For her, as long as she could be with Lu Li, even if she had to sit quietly or cultivate, she would feel at ease somehow. Qi Juanfeng's death had reduced her sense of security. Sitting alone would make her feel terrified. Lu Li paid no more attention to Qi Shi'er. He sat with his legs crossed to think. He sorted out the information Blood Fairy gave him and tried to figure out a way to take control of the mountain. Blood Fairy. 2 hours later, Lu Li asked, "Can you talk to that artifact spirit?" Blood Fairy replied, "If it is willing to talk, then it should be okay. This artifact spirit is a spirit as well and has high intelligence." "Okay." Lu Li nodded. "Go and talk to it at once. Find out what it wants." Blood Fairy agreed and went to talk to that artifact spirit. Lu Li was hopeful. He thought about it and realized that he had to start with the artifact spirit. If this was a treasure of primordial spirit, then the artifact spirit must be highly intelligent. Blood Fairy had confirmed this. In other words, the artifact spirit was the core that controlled the treasure. Without the artifact spirit, the treasure could not be taken control. Therefore, to take control of the treasure, Luli had to start with the artifact spirit. No, an hour later, Blood Fairy said, the artifact spirit won't talk to me. The core formation of the mountain is too complicated. I can't even get close to it. I have tried many times, but it keeps hiding. I cannot get close. Is that so? Luli put on a fierce expression. If it doesn't want to come out, force it out. Keep destroying the formation, and it will come out. Destroy the formation. Blood Fairy was astonished, but she quickly said, Master, you can't be reckless. The formation has the ability to recover, but if you damage it too much, the mountain will be destroyed. If that supreme warrior from the divinity escapes, you will be in danger. Ha ha. Luli smiled and said, just take it easy. Don't destroy the main inhibition formation of the mountain. Also, remember all the diagrams. You can fix them later if they are destroyed. Just listen to me. If you destroy part of the formation, the artifact spirit will come out. Blood Fairy did not understand many things, but Luli did. If the artifact spirit did not have intelligence, then it would be fine. But if it did, it would not stand by and watch the treasure being destroyed. This was its home. If the treasure was destroyed, it would have no home, and its existence would be meaningless. Luli thought about it and realized that this was the only way. The artifact spirit was hiding in the mountain, and there was nothing he could do to it. Chapter 15:15. Blood Fairy spent several days to record the formation diagram of the core of the mountain and send it to Luli. Luli and Blood Fairy discussed together. Eventually, they picked several small formations as breakthroughs. The destruction of those formations would not affect the overall formation of the mountain. It would be easy to repair them in the future. Blood Fairy began to take action. Luli did not show any change in expression. He was determined when he gave the order. As a matter of fact, he was nervous as well. Because no one knew how powerful an artifact spirit's divine ability was. What if Blood Fairy angered the artifact spirit, and the artifact spirit used the power of the formation to kill Blood Fairy? Or, the artifact spirit might vent its anger on Luli and crush him to death with the mountain. Anything was possible. Luli decided to take a gamble. If he won, he would have a piece of amazing artifact that could enhance his abilities and give him the ability to fight against supreme warriors in the divinity. Of course, Luli believed that the chances of him suffering a crushing defeat were slim. The worst-case scenario was that Blood Fairy would be killed. Therefore, Luli was nervous. Blood Fairy was important to him. He closed his eyes and focused on the spiritual connection with Blood Fairy, trying to sense her situation vaguely. Blood Fairy had begun to crack the formation. Her tentacles could be integrated into the patterns, and she could change them quietly. Once the patterns were changed, the formation would change. It was too easy to destroy the formation. Following the discussion with Luli, Blood Fairy chose a small formation to destroy. In a moment, she changed several patterns, and that small formation was destroyed. Buzzing, the mountain trembled and glowed. Yuqing was still in a daze, not knowing what was going on. He felt a strong pressure coming down on him, breaking several of his bones. Blood Fairy's destruction of the small formation had triggered a backlash from the main formation of the mountain. Yuqing was caught in the crossfire and suffered for no reason. The artifact spirit did not take any action. Blood Fairy took action again. She dashed toward another small formation and began to destroy it. When this small formation was destroyed, Blood Fairy finally realized that the artifact spirit was getting restless. The core of the formation began to tremble. Following that, a white shadow sneaked out and stopped 100 feet away from Blood Fairy. Then, Blood Fairy sensed something. Master, Blood Fairy replied, the artifact spirit has appeared. It told me to get out, or it will attack me. How can it attack? Do you know how? Luli was getting more and more nervous. Blood Fairy replied telepathically, it shouldn't be able to kill me with the formation. I'm a spirit, after all, and I'm inside the formation. If he messed around, the entire formation would definitely explode, and the sacred mountain would be destroyed. So, if it attacks me, it will probably devour me directly. This artifact spirit is quite powerful, so I probably won't be its match. Luli thought about it. After a while, he said, talk to him and see if you can make him surrender to me. Even though Luli knew it was impossible, he still wanted to try. Blood Fairy sent out a wave of energy. She was communicating in a special way as a spirit. But a moment later, Blood Fairy said, no, it's just warning me to leave immediately or it will devour me. Devour? Luli suddenly thought of something. The mention of devouring reminded him of something, the dragon's soul in his mind. The dragon's soul was strong. It could devour any energy that entered its soul. How strong was the soul of Emperor Z, the master of the immortal's body? Emperor Z tried to take over Emperor Z's body, but was suppressed by the dragon's soul. Let's have a bet? Luli was struggling. A moment later, he made up his mind. Blood Fairy, find a way to enrage the artifact spirit and lead it into my soul. I will find a way to control it. Lead it into your soul? Blood Fairy was surprised. Master, please think twice. Your soul is your foundation. Once the artifact spirit does something, you will die immediately. Do as I say. Luli did not explain. He gave an order in a domineering manner. Blood Fairy had to carry out the order. She ignored the existence of the artifact spirit and continued to destroy the formation. Finally, the artifact spirit was enraged. The artifact spirit roared and tangled with the blood immortal. The two spirits were in each other. They were devouring each other. But it was clear that Blood Fairy was weaker. The glow was dimming. Master, I am out, Blood Fairy said and ran away from the mountain. Luli stood up and leaned against the side of the mountain. His back was pressed against the mountain. The artifact spirit chased after Blood Fairy in rage. Blood Fairy came out from the mountain and entered Luli's body. The artifact spirit hesitated for a moment but did not go after Luli. Luli made up his mind at once. Blood Fairy, continue to destroy the formation. Blood Fairy pierced a tentacle into the mountain and continued to destroy the formation. The artifact spirit was about to go back when he came after Luli again. Blood Fairy went back into Luli's body just in time. The artifact spirit was faster. He dashed out of the mountain and entered Luli's body. The artifact spirit was not very intelligent. He moved through Luli's body and was led into Luli's soul by Blood Fairy. Luli trembled. This was the most critical moment. If the dragon's soul could not take down the artifact spirit, then his soul would collapse. He would either die or become an idiot. This artifact spirit was not an average beast soul. It was highly likely that the artifact spirit was born from the chaos. Therefore, Luli did not know how strong the artifact spirit was. He had to take a gamble. He pinned all his hopes on the dragon's soul. Buzzing, when the artifact spirit entered Luli's soul, the dragon's soul glowed in a silver light. The dragon's soul moved around and began to attack the invading artifact spirit. Since Blood Fairy and Luli had a spiritual connection, she was a part of Luli. Naturally, the dragon's soul did not attack. In Luli's soul, two shadows began to fight. One was the artifact spirit, like a winged tiger or a qilin, and the other was a silver dragon. Nice. Luli calmed himself down and observed for a moment. He was thrilled. The dragon's soul did not disappoint him. Clearly, it was stronger than the artifact spirit. The dragon's soul was devouring the artifact spirit and suppressing it. The artifact spirit was growing weaker. Clearly, the dragon's soul was consuming its energy. Master, the dragon's soul is so strong. Blood Fairy hid on the side and said with fear, the enchanted soul in your soul is so strong. Even if the artifact spirit is 10 times stronger, it may not be a match for the dragon's soul. Phew. Seeing that the artifact spirit was getting weaker, Luli breathed in relief. Then, he trembled in excitement. Chapter 15-16. The artifact spirit was subdued easily. The dragon's soul was so powerful that Blood Fairy was amazed. Blood Fairy was aware of the existence of the dragon's soul, but she had never seen it in action. This time, the power of the dragon's soul was enough to frighten her. Master! A moment later, Blood Fairy's words delighted Luli. The artifact spirit is willing to surrender. He is willing to surrender. Tell the dragon's soul to stop. Okay. Luli was overjoyed. He kept sending messages to the dragon's soul. Soon, the dragon's soul stopped. But it did not quiet down. The dragon's soul kept its eyes on Luli. The dragon's soul is intelligent as well. Luli nodded and said to Blood Fairy, tell the artifact spirit to establish a slave contract with me or I will let the dragon's soul devour it. Blood Fairy trembled. The artifact spirit and Blood Fairy talked for a while. Then, the artifact spirit dashed toward the outside of the soul. Clearly, it was trying to escape. Roar! Luli seemed to hear a roar. The dragon's soul whooshed over, entangled the artifact spirit and began to devour it. The artifact spirit was at the edge of the sword body, but it could not move one more step. The artifact spirit was weakening. Once again, the artifact spirit began to communicate with Blood Fairy. Master! Blood Fairy said, it knows it is wrong. This time, it is sincere. Just now, it tried to run away. Tell it to establish a slave contract at once. Luli's voice grew cold. If it dares to run away again, I will destroy its soul and make it disappear from the world forever. The artifact spirit was behaving. A white glow came out from its body. Then, an invisible stream of energy separated from its soul and merged with Luli's soul. Okay. Luli sensed the strand of energy after he integrated it. He was overjoyed. Chi-Shiur noticed Luli's expression and asked with curiosity, Brother, why are you so happy? Is there something good? Tell me. Luli checked to make sure that he and the artifact spirit had a spiritual connection. He opened his eyes and said with a smile, Shiur, I have taken control of the mountain. I will tell you later. I need to learn more first. With that said, Luli closed his eyes again and began to communicate with the artifact spirit. The dragon's soul turned into a silver dragon mark and returned to Luli's soul. He sensed Luli's presence in the artifact spirit. This artifact spirit was no longer a threat to Luli. With the spiritual connection, communication was much easier. Luli communicated with the artifact spirit and learned a lot. This artifact spirit was indeed nurtured by heaven and earth. It was naturally born in the sacred mountain. This sacred mountain wasn't refined by the demon Tharch. It was very likely that it existed naturally. Naturally occurring? Luli was excited. He murmured in delight, if it is a natural mountain, then does that mean it is a treasure of chaos? The artifact spirit could not answer this question. But it did tell Luli its name, the name it gave itself, Yaeo. Yaeo? Luli curled his lips and asked, why such a strange name? Did you name it yourself? And Yaeo transmitted his voice. The 5 of us spirit bodies gathered together to discuss. I saw a tooth and a pincer, so I named them Yaeo. 5 spiritual bodies? Luli was surprised. He remembered that he saw 5 sacred mountains outside the Misty Soul Mountain. In other words, each mountain had an artifact spirit. If he could tame the other 4 artifact spirits, then he could have 5 sacred mountains. Luli could control the 5 sacred mountains. Even if 3 supreme warriors from the divinity came, Luli would still be able to deal with them. His breaths were short. He asked, Yaeo, can you control the sacred mountains? What are the skills of the sacred mountains? Can you help me crush that martial artist below to death? I can control the sacred mountains. Yaeo transmitted his voice and said, I can completely control the divine mountain. The divine mountain can be big or small. It is very fast and very strong. However, it will be difficult to crush that cultivator below. That warrior's defense is strong. I can only suppress him. If I want to kill him, I will need 5 sacred mountains. Oh! Luli was disappointed at the first part of Yaeo's words, but the latter part cheered him up. He thought about it and asked, Can you tell the other mountains to come over? One of the sacred mountains is nearby. Yaeo replied, That mountain is under Yaeo's control. Master, the 5 of us were born at the same time. None of us can order the others around. When someone activates the inhibition formation or launches a strong attack, we will be able to sense it and suppress it. Okay. Luli waved his hand and said, Go back to the sacred mountain. Remember to keep that warrior down there in check. Do not let him escape. Yaeo replied, Master, don't worry. It will not be easy for him to get away. Luli was relieved. He put Chi Shear away. When Yaeo went out, Luli asked Blood Fairy to go and check. Luli found Yuqingtian was staying at the foot of the sacred mountain. Luli left. There was another sacred mountain nearby. Luli could feel it. After all, when 2 sacred mountains came down, the ground shook violently. If he could tame one mountain, he could tame another one. If he could tame all 5, then he would be able to fight against 1 or 2 supreme warriors in the divinity. Also, Yaeo said that when 5 sacred mountains came down at the same time, even supreme warriors in the divinity could be killed. There was indeed a green mountain nearby. With Blood Fairy leading the way, Luli did not get lost in the formation of illusion. In the time for 1 incense stick to burn, he found the second green mountain. Blood Fairy, do it. Same as before, Luli asked Blood Fairy to lure out the artifact spirit and let the dragon soul suppress it. Eventually, Luli tamed the artifact spirit. The artifact spirit could control the entire mountain. To tame the artifact spirit was equivalent to controlling the entire mountain. Buzzing, an hour later, the mountain glowed. Blood Fairy dashed out from the mountain and entered Luli's body. An artifact spirit similar to the Fong pincer flew out and entered Luli's body as well. Dragon Soul, it is your turn. Luli was nervous. It would not matter if the battlefield was in his body, but it was in his soul. Any mistake could turn him into an idiot. As soon as the artifact spirit entered Luli's soul, the dragon soul came out and entangled with the artifact spirit. Luli was relieved to see that the dragon soul was unstoppable and had subdued the artifact spirit. He was close to the second sacred mountain. Everything was going smoothly. 2 hours later, Yaeo, the second artifact spirit, established a spiritual connection with Luli. The second sacred mountain was in his hands. Make the sacred mountain smaller, Luli said to Yaeo after some thoughts. Yaeo went back to the sacred mountain. Then, the sacred mountain glowed and shrank to the size of 3 fingers. Luli tried to grab the sacred mountain, only to find that the mountain was rooted to the ground. He could not move it one bit. Master! Chapter 15-17. You cannot carry it? Luli was speechless. How could he take it away if he could not carry it? He could not let the mountain follow him all the time, could he? Luli asked at once, Yicheng, can I put the mountain into my interspatial ring? I don't know, Yicheng shook his head. Never in history has the mountain been put into an interspatial ring. I don't know if I can. Try. Luli took out an unused interspatial ring and poured divine energy into it. The interspatial ring glowed, but the mountain did not move. Luli thought about it and said, Yi-ching, fly the mountain into the interspatial ring. Buzzing, the small mountain flew toward the interspatial ring. What happened next shocked Luli. When the mountain was about to enter the interspatial ring suddenly glowed and turned into dust. So powerful? Luli exclaimed to himself. He thought about it and said, Yi-ching, fly the mountain and follow me. Then Luli said to Blood Fairy, take me back first. Later, we will attack the inhibition formations and lure the other 3 mountains over. We will conquer them one by one. Blood Fairy led the way. Soon, they arrived at the other golden mountain. Luli was not in a hurry to attack the inhibition formations. Once he did, the mountain would come down. The immortal's body was almost destroyed. Luli could not stand the pressure of the mountain. Luli checked and found that Yi-ching was still under the mountain. He thought about it and said to Yi-ching, if the other mountains come down, can you use the mountain to help me? That is easy. Yi-ching replied, I can make the mountain float above your head. When the other mountains come down, you just have to hide. Okay. Luli nodded. He took out the demon slayer and hacked at the ground. There was no crack on the ground. But the sky was trembling. Following that, a surge of horrifying energy came down. Buzzing, the mountain behind Luli flew up. It grew larger and stood above Luli's head. A surge of energy was suppressing Luli. The green mountain flew up to help him. Luli flew to the distance at once. What? Not far away, Yi-ching, who was suppressed by the divine mountain, sensed this pressure. His heart suddenly palpitated, and his eyes turned, revealing a shocked expression. He used a secret skill to sense the situation outside. When he saw a mountain above Luli's head and another mountain was pressing down from the sky, but Luli was flying to the distance at ease, he was even more worried. Luli has consumed 2 mountains? Are you refining the 3rd divine mountain? A shocking thought appeared in his mind. He knew very well that a divine mountain would not be able to crush him to death. What if there were 2, 3, or 5? 5 god mountains came crashing down at the same time. Such a terrifying force was enough to shatter his body and crush his bones. Even if the first divine mountain didn't crush him to death, the other 4 divine mountains would continue to fly up and crush him. How many times could he withstand it? He had a very powerful defensive divine technique, but it consumed his blood essence. How much blood essence did he have? When all the blood essence was used up, wouldn't he still die? Boom! On the other side, a silver divine mountain came crashing down. It was blocked by the green divine mountain and slid down. In the end, it still smashed heavily into the ground. Luli dashed over, delighted. Without taking a moment to rest, he told Blood Fairy to take action at once. It was better to get the 5 divine mountains as soon as possible before anything else. Luli is taking control of the 3rd mountain. Yi-ching sensed that Luli was standing next to the silver mountain with his eyes closed. He was taken aback. Yi-ching did not know how Luli was taking control of the mountains, but he did know that if he did not take any action, Yi-ching would lose his life after Luli took control of the 5 mountains. Should I risk my life? Yi-ching was struggling. As a matter of fact, he had another way to escape. That being said, he would have to pay a heavy price, and he might lose his life here. Yi-ching knew a way to escape, which was his last resort. It was the reason why he could survive so many life-threatening crises over the years. This way was called the blood escape. By burning up all his blood essence, he could teleport to a place hundreds of thousands of miles away. Burning up all his blood essence would not only seriously injure him, but also diminish his abilities. It would take years for him to recover. Most importantly, he would lose consciousness. Furthermore, his body was extremely fragile when he was traveling through the void. If there was an anomaly in the space, he might be strangled to death. If he were in any other place, he would not even consider it. However, this was the ancient demon's perished land, and he was at the Misty Soul Mountain. There were many inhibition formations of elder gods here. If he were to trigger them while teleporting and he was extremely weak, he would be strangled to death. Also, he would pass out soon after teleporting. This was the central region of the land of Yuyan. He had several enemies here. What if he was spotted by his enemies? By then, he would not be able to escape death. Time passed bit by bit, and Yu Qingtian was still struggling in his heart. An hour later, Luli suddenly opened his eyes and grinned. Then, the silver mountain next to him glowed and turned into a small mountain the size of a finger, floating above his head. Another one has been refined? You refined it in an hour? Yu Qingtian was taken aback. At this moment, he had no more hesitation. With 3 mountains, Luli should be able to crush him to death. If he stayed here, he would definitely die. If he ran away, he might not. Naturally, he would choose the latter. Buzzing, Yu Qingtian's blood essence was burning. A surge of horrifying energy spread out from him. Yao sensed it at once. He sent a message to Luli. Master, the one down there is doing something. Yaji, Yagu, control the Divine Mountain to suppress the Golden Divine Mountain. Crush that man down there to death. Luli reacted quickly. No matter what Yu Qingtian wanted to do, Luli would not allow Yu Qingtian to run away. How could Luli miss such a good chance? Whoosh, a silver mountain and a green mountain flew over. However, before they could press down, the Golden Divine Mountain on the other side was abruptly pushed away. Yu Qingtian was covered in flames. Blood oozed out from his pores and he was burning. He grinned and said, Luli, you want to kill me? In your dreams. Buzzing, the space where Yu Qingtian was trembled violently. Then, he vanished into the crack in space. Boom, boom, boom. As Yu Qingtian ran away, the surrounding space began to tremble violently. The ground glowed. Blood Fairy said in a panic, No. Master, that supreme warrior from the divinity tried to teleport by force. The inhibition formation of the Misty Mountain backfired. We must get out of the Misty Mountain at once or we will be torn into pieces by the inhibition formation. Run. Luli was disappointed. He had 2 more mountains to consume. It would be a shame to leave now. Chapter 15:18. Boom, boom, boom. Inside the Misty Soul Mountain, there was a constant rumbling sound. Amid the mist, there were some flashes of lightning. Surges of horrifying qi and energy came from inside. Shi Meng of the royal family of the Asmodeans was still outside the Misty Soul Mountain. He sensed what was going on inside and was taken aback. He rushed into the Misty Soul Mountain, trying to figure out what was going on. Such horrifying qi and energy. As soon as he got closer to the Misty Soul Mountain, he could feel it. His expressions changed as he tried to figure out what was going on. Why was there such a loud noise? Shi Meng's eyes suddenly narrowed because he saw a figure flying out of the thick fog. He was very familiar with that person. He was wearing a sky blue armor, and his helmet was not revealed. His long silver hair was very eye-catching. A human punk? Shi Meng was taken aback. Luli was so weak and yet he could escape from the Misty Soul Mountain. This was strange. Also, didn't Yu Qingtian go after Luli? Why didn't he kill Luli? Why didn't he come out? Instead, it was Luli who escaped. Phew, phew. Luli breathed heavily after he got out. He could feel the horrifying pressure behind him. Fear still lingered in his eyes. Luckily, he had the 3 mountains to lead the way. Otherwise, he wouldn't have made it out so easily. He would have been killed by the inhibition formation of the Misty Soul Mountain. Such a shame. Luli felt it was a shame. How nice it would be if he could have more time. The remaining 2 divine mountains could be subdued. Ha ha ha! Right at that moment, there came a laugh from the distance. Luli finally noticed an Asmodean the size of a hill about 3 miles to his left. Asmodean? Luli pulled a long face. He was almost killed by this Asmodean. Instead of going to heaven, he chose to break into hell. Buzzing, the misty soul mountain glowed for a while, and then the mist disappeared. Luli was taken aback. Ignoring the Asmodean, Luli sent a message to Yayo. Yayo, how come the mist of the misty soul mountain is gone? Yayo replied, the inhibition formation of the misty soul mountain has been triggered. The misty soul mountain has moved. I don't know where exactly. Oh, I see. Luli was even more disappointed. It seemed that he would not have the chance to get the other two mountains. On the other side, Shi Meng strode over. Ali's eyes were filled with tyrannical light. He sneered and said, Boy, the Soul Fog Mountain has moved. Let's see where you can escape to this time. Recently, Shi Meng had been very angry. The person he had been waiting for a long time had not come. Some time ago, he was blasted by Luli with wrath of thunder and then suppressed by Yu Qingtian. He was filled with anger and now, he could vent his anger on Luli. Escape? Luli put on a mocking smile and said, Why should I run? I was just about to settle the score with you. Ha ha ha, Shi Meng laughed and said, How many more thunderbolt balls do you have? Throw them all out and see if you can electrocute me to death. Last time, Luli's fury of the god of thunder injured him. That being said, Luli's physical body was strong, so he didn't suffer serious injuries. Therefore, he was not afraid of the wrath of the god of thunder at all. This time, he would tear Luli apart even at the risk of getting injured. Why would I need the wrath of the thunder god to deal with you? Luli smiled and said, Your physical body is strong, right? Can you stand the suppression of the mountain? Luli dashed over. They were only dozens of miles apart. In an instant, Luli had reached Shi Meng. The three mountains had been following Luli. The three mountains had shrunk to the size of a thumb. They followed Luli silently. There was no trace of powerful treasures. Courting death, Luli had taken the initiative. Shi Meng felt humiliated. He swung his fist at Luli in rage. Teeth pincers smash. Luli did not move. He just gave an order. A golden mountain whooshed over. This mountain did not grow in size. It just smashed into Shi Meng's fist. Bang! Crack, crack, crack. With a muffled sound, Shi Meng's arm bones were broken. Shi Meng was smashed away as well. He rolled on the ground for dozens of times. He crawled up and spat out blood. His moon-like eyes were filled with disbelief. The golden mountain floated in midair. There was no energy coming out from the small mountain. It didn't even glow. It looked like a small pebble. However, this small pebble had smashed away the Asmodean lord that specialized in body cultivation. His arm bones were all broken. What the hell is that? Shi Meng was dumbfounded. He stared at the mountain. Shaking his head, he said, This must be an illusion. It must be an illusion. Luli sneered. He gave another order. Teeth pincers smash again. Whoosh. The golden mountain flew on. Shi Meng flew up, unwilling to believe it. He punched at the golden mountain with his other fist. His fist glowed in a dark light. When his fist moved, there was a shrill noise. Even space was trembling. Bang! The result was as expected. Shi Meng was once again sent flying, and the bones in his other hand were broken once more. The golden mountain floated in midair. There was no surge of energy. It was strange. Crush! Luli waved his hand. The other mountain whooshed over and enlarged in midair. In the end, it did not grow to a size of 30 miles. Instead, it grew to over a mile and pressed down. Boom! A huge pit appeared on the ground. At the bottom of the pit, more than half of Shi Meng's bones were broken. There was a surge of energy coming from the mountain that immobilized him. Is this the mountain in the Misty Soul Mountain? Shi Meng finally came to his senses. If it was the mountain, then everything would make sense. It was unknown how heavy the sacred mountain was. Just now, the sacred mountain had shrunk, but it did not mean that it had become lighter. He had collided with a sacred mountain that was over 100 miles in height, and yet his powerful body had his bones shattered. This was understandable. Human bastard! Shi Meng yelled in rage. So what if you have consumed the mountain? Your grandpa's body is incomparably strong. The divine mountain can't crush me to death. Lu Li snorted. He waved his hand. The other two mountains whooshed over and kept pressing down. Surges of energy came. Shi Meng's bones were broken bit by bit. Finally, Shi Meng was scared. He shouted with all his strength, Young master, I am sorry. I am sorry. Is that okay? I am the great-grandson of the Asmodean Lord Shiyang. If you can spare my life, the Asmodean beasts will forever be your most loyal ally. Grandson of the Asmodean Lord? Lu Li was surprised. The deaf Taoist said that Shi Meng was the descendant of the Asmodean Lord and that he had the blood of the Asmodean Lord. However, Shi Meng had an even more impressive background. He was the great-grandson of the Asmodean Lord. Chapter 15-19. Beasts were stubborn. They only believed in strength. It was impossible to subdue them with words. Only with great strength and absolute power could they be subdued. At the end of the day, beasts bullied the weak and feared the strong. They would destroy those weaker than them at any time if they did not like them. If you were stronger than them, they would bow down and kowtow to you. Shi Meng was tactful with his words. He did not use the Asmodean Emperor to pressure Lu Li. He was a complete coward and he even admitted his mistake. Lu Li's killing intent was reduced a bit. After all, he was chased into the Misty Soul Mountain by Shi Meng. Even though he narrowly escaped death, he had gained something. Also, the deaf Taoist was a beast. Lu Li felt close to this race and did not think they were alien races. Therefore, after some thoughts, Lu Li sent a message to the mountains to come back. Whoosh, the three mountains flew back. They shrank in the air until they were the size of a thumb and flew to the back of Lu Li's head. Shi Meng flew up. He was covered in blood and many of his bones were broken. Looking into Lu Li's cold eyes, Shi Meng knelt, made up his mind and said, Lord, thank you for sparing my life. How should I address you? Later, I will tell my great-grandpa that you will be a friend of the beasts forever. Lu Li sneered. Tell your Asmodean Emperor so that he can come back and kill me? I am not afraid of your great-grandpa. Tell him my name is Lu Li. Lord Lu, don't misunderstand me. Shi Meng stood up and bowed. We beasts have a Taoist tradition. If we are indebted to you, we will be friends for life. Right. Lord, don't you have someone with you? You can let him out and ask him. Oh. Lu Li took out the wicked bead. The deaf Taoist came out. Lu Li told the deaf Taoist what Shi Meng said. The latter nodded. Yes, the beasts do have such a Taoist tradition. Also, Lord Shi Meng is the descendant of the Asmodean Emperor. His words carry enormous weight. That's good. The deaf Taoist would not lie to Lu Li. Lu Li looked better. Pointing to Shi Meng, he said, Deaf Taoist, how about you go back with Shi Meng? Get Shi Meng to help you get rid of those enemies of yours. Shi Meng. Looking at Shi Meng, Lu Li said, He is from the beasts and he has been with me for many years. Take good care of him for me. He has a few enemies. Help me kill them. The deaf Taoist looked at Shi Meng in excitement. To be able to follow a member of the royal family, he could return to the region of doom in glory. Moreover, Shi Meng had a high position of power. It would be too easy for him to help him kill a few of his enemies. He dropped to his knees and kowtowed to Lu Li. Thank you, master. Thank you, Lord Meng. On the other side, Shi Meng nodded. Such a small matter was nothing to him, so he naturally agreed. Lu Li was afraid that Shi Meng would vent his anger on the deaf Taoist. Lu Li said coldly, Shi Meng, in the future, if you need my help, you can have the deaf Taoist contact me. If anything happens to him, I will come after you. The deaf Taoist's eyes reddened with gratitude. Ever since he became Lu Li's sole slave in the purgatory of primordial chaos, the deaf Taoist thought his life was over. The deaf Taoist didn't expect that Lu Li would give him back his freedom and help him a lot later on. The deaf Taoist said nothing but bowed to Lu Li. Shi Meng, I heard that the beasts and the four forces in the divinity are enemies? Lu Li asked Shi Meng. He waved his hand to let the deaf Taoist stand up. Shi Meng's expression turned cold. He nodded and said, to be precise, it's a blood feud that won't end until one of us is dead. If our race hadn't fled into the demon domain back then, we would have been annihilated by the four supreme factions. Okay. Lu Li nodded. Tell the Asmodean Emperor that if there is a chance, we can work together to invade the divinity and destroy the four forces. Destroy the four forces? Shi Meng was taken aback. Then, he forced a smile and said casually, Okay, I will tell him. Time to go. Lu Li waved his hand to the deaf Taoist. You will have to walk the rest of the way. The world is long. See you. The deaf Taoist dropped to his knees again and said, choking with sobs, Master, take care. Lu Li waved his hand in a carefree manner and flew into the distance. He did not like the sadness of parting. Usually, he would leave decisively. After Lu Li left, Shi Meng snorted and said, He wants to go back to the divinity and destroy the four forces? He wants to join hands with us? The deaf Taoist bowed to Shi Meng and said, Lord, do not underestimate Lord Lu. You may not know this, but a while ago, Lord Lu made a scene in the divinity. He killed the vice-patriarch of the clan of warfare of the craftsmen's sect and successfully escaped to the land of Yuyan while being chased by the craftsmen's sect. What? Shi Meng's bell-like eyes were filled with astonishment. He asked in disbelief. He killed the vice-patriarch of the clan of warfare of the craftsmen's sect? Back then, he was not so powerful, the deaf Taoist replied. Back then, he was not as powerful as a mighty warrior in the divinity. He relied on the wrath of thunder and the ability to fly. Everyone in the divinity knows about this, including many at the land of Yuyan. Lord, if you don't believe me, you can ask around. Also, Lord Lu is less than 100 years old. It has been less than 50 years since he ascended to the divinity. Given his current abilities, he can kill a super mighty warrior in the divinity without using the three mountains. Yuqi Tian was almost killed by Lu Li at the Misty Soul Mountain. Less than 50 years since he ascended to the divinity? Hiss, hiss. Shi Meng sucked in a breath of cold air. For the magical beast clan, 50 years was like a snap of the fingers. Not only for the beasts, but for the entire divinity, those under 100 years old were considered young. For Shi Meng, Lu Li was more like a kid. But now, he was defeated by a kid and Lu Li could kill him at will. There are so many talented humans. Shi Meng exclaimed with admiration. Because of our constitution, it is difficult for us beasts to learn the laws of nature. We are only suited for body cultivation. The speed of body cultivation is too slow. It will take at least tens of thousands of years to reach a certain level. I am talented, but it has taken me 190,000 years to reach my current level. Lord, don't be upset. The deaf Taoist bowed. Lord Meng, your holy body is about to be completed. When it is completed, you will be as powerful as a supreme warrior in the divinity. Not to mention, it's not those old fogies. Even the average god world paragons can't kill you. Holy body! Shi Meng's bell-like eyes glowed. He said with excitement, Yes, I have taken the risk to go to the ancient demon's dead ground for the holy body. When I can find that blood sun 9 leaves, I will be able to build the holy body. By then, Yu Qingtian will not be able to kill me even if I stand still and let him attack me. Lu Li, right? Chapter 15-20. Coming out from the Misty Soul Mountain, Lu Li did not know where to go. He picked a random direction and stopped after traveling for thousands of miles. He gazed at the 3 mountains behind him. It was not a good idea for the 3 divine mountains to keep following him. If he encountered a powerful enemy and tried to escape through the void, wouldn't the 3 divine mountains be taken away by the enemy? Let's see if I can put the wicked bead in. Luli made up his mind. He was ready to take the risk. He took out the immortal's body and materials from the wicked bead and threw them into the interspatial ring. Then, he let Chi Shear and Little White out. Squeak, squeak, Little White woke up as soon as it came out. It screamed in excitement when it saw Luli. Luli smiled and said, "Not bad, Little White. You are a mythical beast now. Let's wait and see when you can transform." Squeak, squeak, Little White screamed in joy. It hopped onto Luli's shoulder and put its paws around Luli's neck. Chi Shear was smiling sweetly. She looked around and said, "Brother, have you come out from that formation?" "Yes." Luli patted Chi Shear's hair and grinned. "Shear, wait a moment. I will see if I can put the 3 mountains into the wicked bead." Buzzing, Luli told Chi Shear and Little White to stand 3 miles behind him. He poured divine energy into the wicked bead to generate a strong suction force. He moved closer to the golden mountain. That mountain glowed and vanished in midair. Luli checked with psychic power. The mountain was taken in, but the wicked bead did not react. Luli was overjoyed. Buzzing, buzzing, he put away the other 2 mountains. Making sure that the wicked bead was safe, he waved at Chi Shear and Little White in excitement. Whoosh! Chi Shear came back with Little White in her arms. Luli took out a mountain and waved his hand. "Let's go together. You can have some fun outside." Squeak, squeak, Little White ran forward in excitement. Chi Shear's eyes were like crescent moons. She took Luli's hand and strode forward. While walking, Luli wondered if he should go out or not. He had entered the ancient demon graveyard to avoid Yu Qingtian's pursuit. Now, he was no longer afraid of Yu Qingtian. With the 3 sacred mountains, if Yu Qingtian dared to cause trouble for him, he could easily suppress him. There were too many dangers in the ancient demon graveyard. If he was alone, it would not be a problem. However, Chi Shear and Xiao Bai were with him now. If anything happened, they would all die. That being said, there were many historical sites in the core area of the ancient demon's burial ground. Luli was not interested in the treasures there. What he cared about were the places with natural Taoist rhythms. In the illusion that he saw previously, the mysterious ancient temple definitely contained a lot of natural Tao runes. And Luli made up his mind after some thoughts. If he could not find anything in 3 more months, he would bring Chi Shear and Little White with him to find a way to leave the ancient demon's dead ground. Oh right! Luli suddenly remembered something. When the ancient demon's dead ground existed, the sacred mountain must have existed as well. Did Ao and the others know where the treasured land was? He transmitted his voice to Ao. Ao, do you know if there are any treasured lands nearby? Places like historical sites aren't particularly dangerous. Soon Ao replied, "Master, I don't know. Actually, many places have been changing. But I can go ahead and check. If there are any treasured lands or historical sites, I can take you there." Okay. Luli waved his hand in excitement. "Go ahead and check. Don't stay too far away from me. Just 3,000 miles will do." Whoosh, the golden mountain whooshed away. Chi Shear asked in surprise, "Well, brother, how come this artifact is flying away by itself?" "It is helping us find treasured lands." Luli smiled. He took Chi Shear's hand and went after the golden mountain. The mountain was fast, much faster than Luli. It should be as fast as a supreme warrior in the divinity. After a while, it would stop and wait for Luli to catch up. Then, it would move on and check the surroundings at the same time. Yao, Yagu, and Yugu were spiritual beings born in the mountain. They had been here for many years. They were not very intelligent, but they had been around for millions of years. They were not stupid along the way, Lu Li didn't care which direction he was going. He just followed the mountain. Half a day later, the sacred mountain suddenly flew back and sent a message to Lu Li. There is a team of human warriors up ahead. 2 of them are weaker than the ones we used to kill, and the other 2 are as strong as you, Master. Oh, I see. Lu Li didn't mind. There were 4 of them, and 2 were super mighty warriors in the divinity. Naturally, Lu Li wouldn't worry about them. That being said, Lu Li was here to look for historical sites, not to fight. He decided to take a detour to the left, not wanting to get into conflict with anyone. 300 miles to the left, Lu Li saw another team coming. One of them saw the flying mountain behind Lu Li and shouted, "Look, the artifact is here." They must have found the mountain and were following it, trying to tame it. Lu Li stopped. He used psychic power to check. Sure enough, there were 4 people. 2 young men were mighty warriors in the divinity, and the other 2 old men were super mighty warriors. The 2 young men were a young man and a young lady. Both of them were dressed in fancy robes. They were handsome and had an extraordinary bearing. The 2 super mighty warriors in the divinity were behind them. Clearly, the 2 young men were young masters and young ladies from major families. The 2 super mighty warriors in the divinity were their escorts. The one who spoke was the young master. He stared at the mountain with excitement. The young lady looked at Lu Li and Qi Shi, who was next to him. When the young lady saw Qi Shi, a glint of jealousy rose in her eyes. She thought she was beautiful, but she was not as pretty as Qi Shi. Soon, the young master glanced over to Lu Li and Qi Shi. Lu Li was ignored by him. When he glanced over to Qi Shi, his eyes were filled with passion. He was stunned and couldn't help but exclaim, "What a holy elf lady!" Qi Shi was wearing a white dress with a white flower in her hair. Her skin was fair, her eyes were clear, and her facial features were exquisite. Most importantly, her temperament was not tainted by the mortal world in the slightest. She was like an otherworldly fairy. Anyone who looked at her would feel that she was a beautiful fairy that had walked out of the forest. The 2 old men behind the young master nodded. There were many beautiful girls in the land of Yuyan. Their young lady was beautiful, but she was not as charming as Qi Shi. The young master didn't care about the mountain anymore. To him, Qi Shi was the most precious treasure. Compared to Qi Shi, any other treasure would pale in comparison. He tidied up his robe to make his smile more amiable. Then, he walked over in strides. Standing half a mile away from Lu Li and Qi Shi, he bowed gracefully and said, "I am Bailey Chuan of the East King Valley. This is my sister, Bailey Ming. How should I address you?" How should I address you?" Qi Shi looked at Bailey Chuan and Bailey Ming coldly, but said nothing. She just stood behind Lu Li and grabbed his arm tightly. She was a bit nervous. Chapter 15:21. Lu Li could see many things from Bailey Chuan's eyes. This man was similar to young Master Yu, and he didn't even try to hide his lust. He looked at Qi Shi with possessiveness. Lu Li didn't think words would work on someone like this. He appeared to be only a mighty warrior in the divinity. Therefore, this young master would not let it go and would make a move. If so, why should he show mercy? Bailey Chuan and the 2 powerful warriors behind him were surprised. They didn't expect that Lu Li would tell them to get lost. Didn't Lu Li know the meaning of the name Bailey? Bailey was a rare surname. At the land of Yuyan, it represented some kind of glory and power. It had the same meaning as Pan. Also, Bailey Chuan said they were from the East King Valley. There were 9 immortal kings at the land of Yuyan, and East King was one of them. The territory of the East King Valley was nearby. The ancient demon's dead ground was within the territory of the East King Valley. How could Lu Li tell them to get lost? Bailey Ming smiled with interest. Her smile brightened up the surroundings a bit. Born in a prestigious family, Bailey Ming had an air of nobility about her. Her smile was breathtakingly beautiful. It was the first time that Bailey Ming had met someone who dared to tell Bailey Chuan to get lost. Also, it was an average mighty warrior in the divinity. Bailey Ming found it amusing. Bailey Chuan pulled a long face after he was sure that Lu Li was not joking. He looked down at Lu Li with arrogance and said, "Do you know who I am? How dare you talk to me like this?" Lu Li sneered. He hated people who abused their power and status to do whatever they wanted. Lu Li said coldly, "I don't care who you are. So what if you are the son of East King? If you don't get lost, I will show you no mercy." Ha ha ha. Bailey Chuan was enraged. He was filled with killing intent. He laughed out of anger and said, "You want to show me no mercy? Come on, let's see how you can do that. Ever since I was born, you are the first person who dared to talk to me like this. Who do you think you are? If you can't show me no mercy today, I will make sure you die without a burial place." Buzzing, Lu Li didn't bother to waste time. He waved his hands and mobilized spatial force. Suddenly, the weather changed. A formless power pressed down on them. Bailey Chuan and Bailey Ming felt as if a mountain was pressing down on them. Their bodies couldn't move at all. Swish, 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 the expressions of the two divine worlds' super almighties immediately changed. They discovered that their bodies were being suppressed, but they didn't dare to sit and wait for death. If anything happened to Bailey Chuan and Bailey Ming, their entire clan would be buried with them. Buzz! The two of them circulated their divine power madly, and one of them even spat out a mouthful of blood. They actually managed to forcibly move. He dashed to the front of Bailey Chuan. A golden broadsword appeared in his hand, and he was about to hack at Lu Li. Hiss! The mountain behind Lu Li rose up and enlarged. Then, it pressed down at a horrifying speed. A surge of energy enveloped Bailey Chuan and the other three. Lu Li said coldly, "Old man, I dare you to move. Do you believe that I will crush your young master and young mistress into minced meat?" Stop! The old man didn't dare to move his broadsword anymore. He waved his hand and said, "Lord, please don't do anything rash. Everything is negotiable. Our young master and young mistress are from the immediate Bailey family. If anything happens to them, East King will be furious. By then, don't use East King to pressure me," Lu Li said coldly. His eyes were as sharp as an eagle's, so sharp that Bailey Chuan and the others felt a chill down their spines. He said emotionlessly, "East King is strong. I am not his match. But East King may not be able to kill me, but I can kill more than half of the Bailey family. Do you believe me?" Lu Li's words were arrogant. Bailey Chuan and Bailey Ming snorted at him. But they didn't dare to say anything. If Lu Li were to let the mountain come down, they would be skinned alive if not dead. The two old men didn't believe Lu Li as well. But Lu Li was so young and yet he was so powerful. He could defeat them easily. The mountain above also made them feel threatened. The two old men had to be careful. They were surprised. When did such a horrifying young man emerge from the Yuyan land? Something is not right. The old man in front of Lu Li was taken aback. He remembered a young man who was in the limelight recently. It was said that this man was so fierce in the southwest that even Yu Qingtian was disgraced. He stared at Lu Li's face carefully and asked, "Sir, are you Lord Lu Li?" Lu Li. Bailey Chuan and Bailey Ming came back to their senses. Their expressions changed again. They had heard a lot about Lu Li. It was just that they didn't know how to react. "Yes, it is me," Lu Li replied coldly. "What? Does the Bailey family want to be my enemy like Yu Qingtian? I have enemies all over the world. I don't care about the Bailey family. How about I kill the two kids of the Bailey family and let East King see if he can kill me?" Swish, 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 Bailey Chuan and the other three old men turned pale. They might have thought Lu Li's words were arrogant before, but now, they didn't dare to underestimate Lu Li or treat him as a joke anymore. This was because Lu Li's previous actions had proven that he had the ability and courage to do so. He dared to challenge the craftsman's sect in the divinity. He dared to kill Yu Linglong at the Yuyan land. He dared to go to the Overlord city to slaughter. What else couldn't Lu Li do? Two kids. Bailey Chuan was ashamed and angry when he remembered how Lu Li addressed them. He shouldn't be younger than Lu Li, but he was just a kid in Lu Li's eyes. They were not on the same level. Bailey Ming had mixed feelings. She looked at Lu Li with curiosity, anger and some other strange emotions. She was from a noble family. Young people wouldn't be interested in her. Lu Li was about the same age as her, but he was more famous and more powerful than people of her generation. Naturally, she was curious and interested. It was a pity that Lu Li had a beauty with him, and he didn't even look at her. This made her feel angry and ashamed. Qi Shi'er stood behind Lu Li. Her eyes were like crescent moons. She looked at Lu Li with fascination. This was the indomitable brother Lu in her heart. Looking at Lu Li's broad back, she felt it was like a huge shelter. As long as she stood behind Lu Li, he could shield her from all the storms. The elder of the Bailey family smiled embarrassedly. He cupped his fists and said, "Lord Lu, please don't be angry. We were blind and offended you. We, the East King Valley, will not make an enemy out of a talent like Lord Lu for no reason. Lord Lu, you can come to the East King Valley when you have time. We will hold a feast and apologize." The elder was a patriarch of the Bailey family. As a patriarch of the East King Valley, he was showing respect to Lu Li by saying such words. If it were any other powerful warrior, they would take advantage of the situation and let it go. Lu Li snorted arrogantly. He looked at Bailey Chuan and said coldly, "There is no need to hold a feast. Let Bailey Chuan kneel down and kowtow to me and I will pretend nothing happened. Otherwise, You." Bailey Chuan's face turned red. He said angrily, "Lu Li, don't go too far. I am going too far. So what?" Lu Li squinted at Bailey Chuan coldly. He raised his voice and shouted, "Are you going to kneel or not?" Chapter 1522. Lu Li was being overbearing this time. In the past, he wouldn't have been so overbearing. It wasn't that his temperament had changed. He was secretly sending a message to all the forces at the Yuyan land, don't mess with him. If he couldn't make everyone like him, then he could only make them fear him. Otherwise, it would be hard for him to live a peaceful life. He already had so many enemies. He didn't mind adding another East King Valley to the list. He believed that this small matter wouldn't make East King angry. If an immortal king didn't have this kind of tolerance, then he wouldn't be the overlord of the Yuyan land. Lu Li was famous in the divinity. He had wrath of thunder and could fly. Regular people couldn't hunt him down. He also had the sacred mountain. If East King wasn't stupid, he wouldn't make Lu Li his enemy. After all, the Overlord's mansion was a lesson. If they offended Lu Li, East King Valley would suffer a great loss if Lu Li went on a killing spree. Lu Li was a young master of the Bailey family. No one else had seen him, so it wouldn't be a big deal. Even if East King learned of this, he would only be angry. He wouldn't make a big move. Bailey Chuan and Bailey Ming would go around saying bad things about Lu Li and slander him. A disciple of an immortal king family going around saying bad things about Lu Li would help his reputation grow. After all, they had offended a disciple of an immortal king family, and yet the Bailey family didn't do anything. This meant many things, of course. Lu Li had asked Bailey Chuan to kneel for Qi Shi'er. Qi Shi'er was Lu Li's sore spot. Anyone who dared to mess with her would have to pay the price. Bailey Chuan's face turned red and then black. His eyes were spitting fire. If it were someone else or outside, he wouldn't care. He would order for a fight or retreat to gather more powerful warriors to kill Lu Li. This was the ancient demon's dead ground. Powerful warriors of the Bailey family wouldn't be able to come so quickly. What was more, the terrain here was complicated and there were inhibition formations everywhere. Even a supreme warrior from the Bailey family might not be able to kill Luli. A wise man knew better than to fight when the odds were against him. Bailey Chuan gritted his teeth and said, "Young Master Lu, we haven't done anything all this time. Are you being too overbearing? Our Bailey family is not a small family that can be bullied and humiliated by others. It's better if you don't go too far. Leave some leeway for others in the future." "There's no need for that." Luli waved his hand domineeringly and said in a cold voice, "I am asking you if you are going to kneel or not. If you don't want to kneel, you can just say it. Be a man, don't be so wishy-washy." Bai Li Chuan's expression became even uglier. The muscles on his face were contorted, and his chest was heaving up and down. He almost couldn't breathe. "Young Lord Lu," Bai Li Ming spoke. Her voice was very pleasant to hear. She bowed and said with a smile, "It was just a small matter. Bai Li Ming apologizes on behalf of my brother. Please forgive my brother." "On his behalf?" Luli squinted at Bai Li Ming and said, "Then kneel and kowtow for him." "You." The smile on Bai Li Ming's face disappeared. She was ashamed and angry at the same time. She pointed at Luli and said, You are so unreasonable." "Ha ha ha." Luli laughed out loud. He was filled with arrogance. He said with a cold smile, "This is the kind of person I am. I don't like to make trouble, but if anyone messes with me, I will make him regret it for the rest of his life. Bai Li Chuan, I will ask you one last time. Will you kneel or I will kill you? Bai Li Ming, get lost or you will be crushed to death together. Don't blame me." While speaking, Luli was filled with killing intent. He had turned into a god of death. At the same time, the mountain above Bai Li Chuan and the others began to spin. A surge of qi and energy pressed down. Bai Li Chuan and the other patriarchs sensed a fatal danger in their souls. Bai Li Ming and the two patriarchs were frightened. The mountain had expanded to a radius of about half a mile. If it was crushed down, they would all die. But how could they leave Bai Li Chuan behind? How could they live with their dignity in the future? That being said, they were afraid of death, so they could only look at Bai Li Chuan. Bai Li Chuan was embarrassed. His face turned pale. His eyes flickered. Seeing that Bai Li Ming and the others were looking at him, Bai Li Chuan made up his mind, dropped to his knees and lowered his head. "Okay." Luli nodded. He waved his hand and the huge mountain above his head flew back. It shrank until it was the size of a thumb and flew to his back. Luli didn't look at Bai Li Chuan and the others. He held Qi Shier's hand and walked away slowly. After they were gone, Bai Li Chuan stood up with a straight face. He slapped the ground heavily. A deep pit appeared. Bai Li Chuan clenched his teeth and said, Luli, Bai Li Chuan, swear that if I don't get back at you today, I will not be a man. Bai Li Ming stared at where Luli was going without saying anything. No one could tell what was on his mind. A patriarch thought about it and said, Young Master Chuan, how about we go back and report this to our family patriarch? No. Bai Li Chuan waved his hand coldly and said, Let's report this to Third Grandpa. He will not do anything for me. My status in the family will plummet. None of you can tell anyone about this. I will get back at you. Get back at you? Bai Li Ming shook her head. She had a clear view of some things. She could see through some things very clearly. For example, it was almost impossible for her brother to become a peerless expert. He was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He had never suffered much, not to mention going through life and death battles. How could a warrior become a powerful warrior without going through life and death battles? What was more, to reach the supreme warrior realm in the divinity, one must go through heaven's tribulation. Bai Li Chuan's state of mind was so fragile that he would perish in the first heaven's tribulation. Without reaching the supreme warrior realm in the divinity, it was almost impossible for Bai Li Chuan to kill Luli. Luli had killed many super mighty warriors in the divinity at the southwest of the land of Yuyan. The other two patriarchs shared the same thought, but they didn't show it. One of the patriarchs asked fawningly, "Young Master Chuan, do you have a plan?" "Yes." It was just a casual question, but Bai Li Chuan sneered and said, "How horrifying was the pressure from that mountain? I don't think even Patriarch Li and you can stand it. I think that mountain is spiritual treasure." Spiritual treasure? The two patriarchs' eyes glowed. Even Bai Li Ming's eyes widened. Bai Li Chuan said coldly, "Say, if I tell others that Lu Li is at the ancient demon's dead ground and has a spiritual treasure of spiritual treasure, what do you think will happen?" Bai Li Ming and the two elders were visibly moved. If such news were to spread, wouldn't countless powerful cultivators be alerted? After all, the temptation of a spiritual treasure was too great. Killing with a borrowed knife is a good plan. Patriarch Li gave a thumbs up and nodded. Actually, there are several young masters and young ladies at the land of Yuyan who have been wanting to fight Lu Li for a long time. After all, Lu Li is an outsider and he has gained such a reputation. They will feel ashamed. If the news gets out, the ancient demon's dead ground will be very lively, ha ha. Chapter 1523. The news spread quickly. Bailey Chuan brought his men out of the ancient demon graveyard and used the Bailey family's channels to spread the news. Lu Li's matter had just been put to rest for a while, but Yuyan land was stirred up again. The Chaos Spirit treasure was the most powerful treasure. Every time one appeared, it would cause a fight among the major forces. Many times, the Immortal King would get involved and there would be bloodshed in the Yuyan land. Bailey Chuan had also spread a rumor that Lu Li was too arrogant and would kill anyone he saw in the ancient demon graveyard. Lu Li even said that he wanted to suppress all the young experts of the Yuyan land. This news was obviously fabricated. If Lu Li really said that, it would be a declaration of war against all the young elites of the Yuyan land. Many people snorted when they heard the news, knowing that it was just a rumor. Many people would believe the rumors when they heard it. Lu Li had just come from the divinity and was a famous expert there. He did not rise up in the Yuyan land, so the young people of the Yuyan land thought of him as an outsider. This outsider was arrogant in the southwest. He had humiliated Pan Ning, killed Yu Linglong, and slaughtered people in Overlord City. In the end, Yu Qingtian could not do anything to him. This made the experts of the younger generation of Yuyan Pass feel that they had lost a lot of face. The limelight had been stolen by Lu Li. The top experts of the younger generation were naturally unhappy. Some of the more combative ones were ready to take action. If they could kill Lu Li, wouldn't it prove that they were more powerful? After the news spread, some people started to take action. Whether it was true or not, the temptation of the Chaos Spirit treasure was too great. They had to go. If it was true, they would be rich if they could get a Chaos Spirit treasure. Slowly, more and more people rushed towards the ancient demon graveyard. The few young masters and mistresses of the land of Yuyan could not sit still any longer. They immediately took the teleportation formation to the East King Valley and entered the ancient demon graveyard. Bailey Chuan was overjoyed when he saw the experts entering the ancient demon graveyard. He was relieved when the three top talents of the Yuyan land entered as well. The three top talents were the chosen successors of the three immortal king families. They were secretly protected by the supreme warriors of the divinity. Lu Li would definitely die if he encountered any one of them. Let's go. Bailey Chuan could not sit still any longer. He decided to enter the ancient demon dead ground again to watch the show. He could not vent his anger until he saw Lu Li die with his own eyes. He brought an elder with him and sneaked into the ancient demon graveyard to watch the show. Get lost. In the ancient demon's dead ground, Lu Li shouted angrily when he saw three people standing in his way. In more than half a month, this was the fifth group of people he had encountered, and these 5 groups were clearly coming for him. He had already killed the first 4 group. Humph, Luli, hand over the primordial spirit heaven treasure and we will spare your life. That's right, if you don't hand it over, this day next year will be the anniversary of your death. Luli, hand it over. You can't keep the primordial spirit treasure. On the other side was a deity world super almighty and 2 deity world almighties. Luli was curious as to who had given these 3 such courage. Hadn't they heard that he had killed a few god world super powerhouses in the southwest? Bailey Chuan, don't let me see you again, or I'll kill you. 5 groups of people were here for the primordial spirit treasure. Luli would be an idiot if he still could not figure it out. Bailey Chuan must be adding fuel to the fire. He deliberately spread the news that Luli had the primordial spirit treasure. Charge! Luli didn't want to waste any more time, seeing the passion in the 3's eyes. These people had been blinded by the primordial spirit treasure. There was nothing more to say to them. Fight them. Buzzing, Luli waved his hand and a surge of invisible force immobilized the 3 warriors. A glint of coldness rose in Luli's eyes as he said, "Don't you want the primordial spirit treasure? Here it is." Luli waved his hand. The hill behind him whooshed up and grew to a size of 3 miles. It smashed down. Boom! The ground sank into a deep pit, and the 3 of them were all crushed into minced meat. Even the super almighty of the immortal world could not withstand such a powerful gravitational force. Whoosh! Luli walked over and put away an interspatial ring that was not crushed and a set of supreme armor. Then, he strode away. The mountain was leading the way to a land of treasure. Luli frowned, trying to figure out what to do next. None of the 5 groups of people were strong. The most powerful ones were the 2 super mighty warriors from the divinity. If there were more and more enemies and they were stronger, would he have to keep on killing? By then, he would be the enemy of the entire land of Yuyan. Become enemies with 9 great divine kings? Would there be a place for him at the land of Yuyan? But what else could he do other than kill? Those people would not reason with him. They were all here for the primordial spirit treasure. How could he leave? Hide for a while. Luli thought for a while and said to Yaeo, "Find a land of treasure as soon as possible, a place where I can hide." At this rate, they would run into more and more people. Luli wanted to see if he could find a hidden land with a certain degree of danger. In that case, average warriors would not dare to come in. There is a Buzhou mountain 300,000 miles to the left. Yaeo said, "That mountain is dangerous. There are all kinds of inhibition formations. The inhibition formations of water, fire and thunder are the most powerful. Average warriors will not dare to go in. But, Master, be careful. I cannot help you too much. I can only protect you from some attack." Buzhou Mountain? Inhibition formations? Luli's eyes glowed. He waved his hand and said, "Okay, this is it. I am not afraid of inhibition formations." Blood Fairy's ability to detect inhibition formations was top-notch. Blood Fairy could explore the way ahead and avoid many inhibition formations. Yaeo could also use the mountain to block some inhibition formations, which made it safer. The mountain was flying fast in the front with Luli following closely behind. It only took them a couple of hours to cover a distance of 300,000 miles. Luli could see a huge mountain in the distance. He could feel the danger even before he got closer. Swish, swish, boom, boom, boom. The entire mountain was shrouded in a dark haze. Luli could faintly see flames rising up from the mountain. Thunderbolts were striking down from the sky. The thunderbolts did not vanish immediately. They were still hovering around the mountain. Luli could feel the destructive energy in the thunderbolts from the distance. Whoosh! Before Luli reached the mountain, he heard some noises coming from the right. Luli used psychic power to check. He frowned. There were over a dozen people coming from the right. There were 4 super mighty warriors in the divinity. They must be warriors from a major force. It is Luli. Luli could vaguely hear his name in the conversation. Without hesitation, Luli dashed into the Buzhou mountain and vanished into the mountains. Whoosh, the team arrived but did not dare to follow Luli in. A super mighty warrior in the divinity stopped them and explained, Bujo Mountain is a famous dangerous place in the dead land of ancient demons. I am afraid that more than half of us will die in there. Then what should we do? Master Lu, are we not going to fight for the Chaos Treasure? A warrior asked anxiously. Not anymore, Master Lu said with a cold grin. As a matter of fact, even if we can get the Chaos Treasure, we cannot keep it. In the end, we will have to sell it at a high price. I heard that many important people have come in. If so, let's not fight for the Chaos Treasure. Let's sell information. Spread out and find teams from other families and forces. Tell them that Luli is here. One piece of information can be sold for tens of millions of divine sources. I can make billions just by selling information. Why do I still need the primordial spirit? Chapter 1524. Mount Bujo was large, with a radius of at least millions of miles. As soon as Luli entered the mountain, he noticed that the gravity was much stronger. His speed was slowed down by dozens of times. Well, Luli's first thought was to draw formations in the void. He was relieved to make sure that he could fly away. As long as he could fly away, he would have a way out no matter how dangerous this place was. He told Blood Fairy to reach out her tentacles to check the inhibition formations around. With Blood Fairy around, no inhibition formations could escape her detection. If Luli could find an inhibition formation, he would go around it if he could. If not, he would have to crack it by force. Master, there is some movement of inhibition formations up ahead. Go to the left. Hundreds of feet later, Blood Fairy sent him a message. Luli turned to the left at once. As a matter of fact, he could faintly sense some movement of inhibition formations. He had a deep understanding of inhibition formations and he could tell something. Master, go to the right. Don't touch that tree. Master, go to the gutter on the right. There are inhibition formations on both sides. If you touch them, they will spit out thunderbolts. Master, that cyan and red boulder can attract thunderbolts. Go around it. Luli was relieved to have Blood Fairy with him. Dozens of miles later, Blood Fairy had been guiding him. He did not touch any inhibition formations. Blood Fairy was a spiritual being. She could sense any inhibition formations when she was moving underground. I hope no one will follow me, Luli said to himself. He did not want to offend all the major forces of the Yuyan land. He hoped that he could hide here for a while. When things settled down, he could leave the ancient demon's burial land and find a place to cultivate. If only I can sneak into the Hall of Ghost quietly and cultivate here for a few years. A glow rose in Luli's eyes. The Hall of Ghost was a land of treasures. He was afraid that he would be discovered. If Yu Qingtian threw a super mighty warrior into the Hall of Ghost by force, the inhibition formations in the Hall of Ghost would backfire, and Luli would be smashed to pieces. Moving on, Luli found many elixirs, but he did not pick them at random. For one thing, he was not familiar with elixirs and did not know which ones were precious. For another, he was afraid that he might trigger the inhibition formations of Mount Bujo. He was here to avoid trouble, not to look for elixirs. Along the way, he set up some small restrictions. In this way, he would have a chance to know if someone was following him. He wouldn't be completely unaware if someone secretly killed their way to his door. After walking for 2 whole days, he had only traveled about 30,000 miles. There were too many restrictions here, and the gravity was especially strong, affecting their speed. For 2 days, Luli did not touch any inhibition formations. He only managed to crack 3 minor ones. 2 of them were formations of illusion. Luli did not want to waste time on them, so he asked Blood Fairy to crack them. Nobody had touched the inhibition formations Luli had built, which put him at ease. It seemed that the group of martial artists he encountered outside of Buzhou Mountain did not dare to follow him in, otherwise they would have already triggered the prohibition spell he had set up. Let's travel for another 2 days and find a place to cultivate. Lu Li made up his mind. He couldn't always wander around in the dark. If he walked too much at night, he would inevitably run into ghosts. Blood Fairy was not omnipotent. Who could guarantee that Blood Fairy would be able to detect all the restrictions? Master, it is not going to be easy. There are inhibition formations in 3 directions. One is of flames, one is of thunders, and the last one is strange. I cannot tell what it is. A day later, Blood Fairy sent another message. Lu Li waved his hand and said, "Let's go to the inhibition formations of thunders. I think I can stand the average ones." The lightning armor appeared over Lu Li's body. He walked toward a cyan and red boulder in the middle. As soon as he stepped on the boulder, it began to glow. Then, a thunderbolt the size of a human head came down from the sky and struck at Lu Li. Buzzing, Lu Li's lightning armor glowed as all the thunderbolts were absorbed. Lu Li curled his lips. This thunderbolt was not strong, about the same as the strongest thunderbolts in the prison of thunder. Even Little White could stand it, let alone hurt him. Right, Little White? Seeing that another thunderbolt was about to strike down, Lu Li sent a message to Little White at once and let it out from the wicked bead. Little White could use thunderbolts to refine its body. This was the perfect time for Little White to absorb some. Squeak, squeak, when Little White saw the lightning above its head, its eyes were filled with joy. It shot up into the sky and took the initiative to charge towards the lightning. Boom! The thunderbolt landed on Little White and it was smashed down. But after rolling around on the ground, Little White stood up, alive and kicking. Little White looked at Lu Li with a smile and its short tail was wagging. "Ha, Little White, not bad. You have grown stronger." Lu Li nodded. Little White wagged its tail fawningly. All of a sudden, it stared at the cyan and red boulder. Little White squeaked in excitement and began to chew on the boulder. Lu Li watched as the boulder disappeared and Little White ate the boulder. After a moment of surprise, Lu Li asked, "Little White, is the boulder tasty? Is it better than cloud crystal?" Squeak, squeak, Little White nodded and continued to chew on the boulder. Little White ignored the thunderbolts. The boulder under Lu Li's feet was disappearing at a speed visible to the naked eye. After an hour, the boulder under Lu Li's feet was gone, and there were no more thunderbolts in the sky. Little White's small belly ate a boulder with a diameter of more than 10 feet. Not only was it not bloated, it seemed that it was not full yet. Lu Li picked up Little White and asked, "The boulder is tasty. Is it good for you?" Little White nodded. Lu Li grinned and said, "Then you are in luck. There are many of these here. I have seen at least a dozen before." Squeak, squeak, Little White's eyes were so bright that it was scary. It kept jumping around on Lu Li's body, very happy. Lu Li carried Little White forward with a smile. After another half a day, they found the same boulder. Little White was lying on Lu Li's shoulder, digesting the cyan and red boulder it ate before. Now that it saw another one in front of it, it ran over excitedly and started to chew on it. Boom, 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 thunderbolts kept whooshing down, but Little White turned a deaf ear to it. It kept eating the cyan and red boulder. The boulder with a diameter of 10 feet was shrinking. Lu Li wondered how Little White could swallow it with its tiny belly. "Master, there is a cave up ahead with a stream in front of it. There are some inhibition formations, but we can solve them." Blood Fairy sent a message which cheered Lu Li up. He told Little White to chew on the boulder while he went over to check. "Okay, we will cultivate here for half a year. We will go out when the storm is over." Buzzing, Lu Li let Chi Shear out and asked Blood Fairy to solve the inhibition formations nearby. He began to work himself. He set up many small inhibition formations in all directions so that he would know as soon as someone approached. "Shear, we will be living here for half a year. When everything was done, Luli took Chi-Sheer into the cave. He took out a bed and said, "You can cultivate here. When you are tired, you can rest on the bed." Chapter 1525. There are 80,000 words in the world, but the word love is the most murderous. Looking at Chi-Sheer's face that was as beautiful as a peach blossom and her eyes that were as gentle as water, Luli sighed in his heart. It was the hardest to endure a beauty's grace. He didn't say anything and just stroked Chi-Sheer's hair lovingly. Then, he went out and told Little White not to finish eating the red stone. He wanted to leave some so that it could absorb lightning to refine its body. Little White listened to Luli. It left a small piece of red and green stone and sat on it with its legs crossed. Every 10 breaths of time, a bolt of lightning would strike Whitey's body. Little White closed its eyes comfortably and began to digest the red stone it had swallowed. Not only did the lightning not injure it, but it was also a great supplement for it. After everything was settled, Luli went back to the cave and built a spirit-gathering formation. Then he sat next to Chi-Sheer to cultivate. Chi-Sheer sat quietly and stared at the side of Luli's face. After a while, she sat down to cultivate as well. Lightning flashed outside, causing the light in the cave to flicker. This place was originally a bit gloomy, but Chi-Sheer didn't feel the slightest bit afraid. Sitting next to Luli, she somehow felt safe. Even if they were in the underworld, she would not feel afraid. Luli entered the transcendent state. Half of Blood Fairy's tentacles were in the immortal's body to repair the formations and the other half was in the ground to check the surroundings. There were 3 divine mountains circling around the cave, so he would know immediately if anything happened. Therefore, he was very at ease cultivating in seclusion. He calmed his heart and started to comprehend the sword scar killer move. He had comprehended it in the canyon of the Ghost King Palace, and it could only be considered as a beginner. He had only comprehended one true meaning of the power of space, and there were still a few true meanings that he had yet to comprehend. This killer move should be a powerful killer move left behind by Gui Wang. If he could completely comprehend it, his attack power would definitely increase greatly. Luli didn't have anything to do during this time, so he didn't want to waste his time sitting around. Chi-Sheer also went into seclusion to comprehend the true meaning she had comprehended in the past. After cultivating in seclusion for more than a month, she opened her eyes in annoyance. She had reached a bottleneck, and her strength had not improved at all. She stood up and took out some dry rations and water to eat. With her strength, she actually didn't need to eat anything. However, little girls still liked to eat some food, so she would occasionally eat something. After eating and drinking, one would naturally have to excrete. If one didn't eat or drink, and only absorbed the energy of heaven and earth, there would naturally be no such trouble. After a while, Chi-Sheer blushed. She sneaked a peek at Luli and tiptoed out. Walking out of the cave, Chi-Sheer found a secluded spot. Blushing, she undressed and squatted down. Unexpectedly, as soon as she finished peeing, a sonic boom rang out in the distance. A divine mountain flew over like lightning, scaring Chi-Sheer. "Ah!" Chi-Sheer shouted. Luli, who was in the cave, opened his eyes almost at the same time. Yachi sent him a message that woke him up. "Sheer." Hearing Chi-Sheer's scream, Luli dashed out without thinking and arrived in front of her in an instant. However, at this moment, Chi-Sheer was pulling up her pants in a panic. Luli happened to see 2 smooth and white thighs. He could also vaguely see some beautiful peach garden. Ah! Chi-Sheer was so shy that she wanted to dig a hole in the ground. She screamed and covered her private parts out of instinct. However, her underwear fell down. She panicked and picked it up again. She even turned around in a panic, exposing her snow-white buttocks to Luli. Luli blushed. He paused for a moment before he turned around. His mind was filled with the beautiful scene he just saw. Chi was so shy that she didn't know what to do. She picked up her pants in a panic, tidied them up, and squatted on the ground with her hands covering her face. Tears flowed down. Lu Li's mind was in a mess when he saw Chi crying. He turned around in embarrassment, swallowed, coughed and said, "Well, I didn't do it on purpose. There were enemies approaching. I heard your scream and thought something happened to you." Chi didn't feel wronged. She just didn't know what to do in this situation. She didn't know what to say. She kept on crying to cover up her panic. *T. Lu Li yelled in annoyance. He didn't know how to deal with this. Nothing he said now would be in the wrong. He stood on the side, rubbing his forehead. Whoosh, from the distance came a golden mountain. Yao said, "Master, 2 powerful warriors are approaching. One of them is as powerful as the one I defeated the other day." Supreme warrior from the divinity? Lu Li was worried. He made up his mind and said to Chi "I will explain to you later. Supreme warriors from the divinity are approaching. I will put you into the wicked bead. If I don't go now, Little White will be in danger." Chi stopped crying. She stood up pitifully and said in a weak voice, "Brother, don't worry about me. Go." Buzzing, Lu Li was relieved. He put away Chi and told Blood Fairy to go back into the wicked bead. Then, he flew away with the 2 mountains. As soon as he arrived at Little White, Lu Li pulled a long face because Little White was confronting 2 people. Little White was showing its teeth and its mane was standing up like a lion cub. Thunderbolts were striking down from above its head. The 2 warriors were looking at Little White with interest, especially the girl in the front. She seemed to be fond of Little White. Stupid, Lu Li slapped his forehead. He realized that he had made a mistake. Little White was attracting Thunderbolt. Any warrior passing by would notice. As soon as Little White came, Lu Li and Little White would be exposed. Lu Li looked at the 2 warriors. He was surprised to see the girl in the front. She was as beautiful as Pan Yuqin. She was powerful. She must be a super mighty warrior from the divinity. Supreme warrior from the divinity. Lu Li saw an old man with a crooked back standing behind the lady. Lu Li became even more solemn. Clearly, this supreme warrior from the divinity was the girl's escort. She must have a powerful warrior from the divinity as her escort. She was a young lady from one of the 9 immortal kings, and the most distinguished one at that. The girl was wearing a blood-red armor which was quite revealing. Her thighs, abdomen, and arms were all exposed. Judging from her life energy, she should be young, about the same age as Lu Li. She had a red bow in her hand. She didn't even look at Lu Li, only at Little White. The old man behind her had already noticed Lu Li. A glow rose in his murky eyes. He said in a hoarse voice, "Young lady, the man is here. Little White, come back." Lu Li waved his hand. Little White came back and stood on Lu Li's shoulder. It was still showing its teeth at the pretty girl. But Little White didn't look fierce at all. Instead, it looked more adorable. The young lady looked away from Little White. For the first time, she looked at Lu Li. She became cold as well. She said, "You are Lu Li, right? I am Cyan Luan of the palace of Cyan Emperor. I heard that you are good? You regard heroes in the world as nothing. I am here to meet you." Chapter 1526. Cyan Luan was graceful. She had an air of nobility about her, but it was not annoying. She gave people the feeling that she was a phoenix in the sky and they were ants in the mortal world. She had an air of nobility about her. This was something that could only be developed by being in a high position, born with wealth and confidence. Lu Li was not afraid of the super mighty warriors in the divinity. He was even confident that he could defeat the average supreme warriors. That being said, supreme warriors in the divinity were the most powerful warriors in the human world. Who knew what kind of skills they had? If it was possible to avoid a fight, Lu Li wouldn't be so bored as to fight. Bai Li Chuan. Lu Li shouted a name to himself. Bai Li Chuan must have said many bad things about him. Lu Li had planned to have Bai Li Chuan spread his name, which would save him a lot of trouble. However, he messed things up. Instead of reducing his troubles, they were increasing. Ha ha! Lu Li smiled, cupped his fists and said, Lady Cyan Luan, nice to meet you. I am not arrogant and I will not disregard heroes in the world. I just taught Bai Li Chuan a lesson. He must be the one who spread the rumors. Lady Cyan Luan, you are smart. Can't you see that I am using someone else to do my dirty work? Of course, Cyan Luan could tell that Lu Li was using someone else to do his dirty work. She came to the ancient demon's dead ground because she wanted to put Lu Li down and let the world know that there were talents in the young generation of the Yuyan land. She looked at Lu Li coldly with a straight face and said with contempt, Lu Li, I have come to you. How can you be such a coward? If you are a man, then let's have a big fight. We, the people of the Yuyan land, are not afraid of a fight. If you don't want to fight, fine. Kneel to me and give me your pet. Then, I will let you go. Ha ha ha. Lu Li laughed out of anger. Did this silly girl of the Qing family really think that he was afraid? She wanted him to kneel and now she wanted Little White? Lu Li looked at the old man behind Cyan Luan and said, Did you bring supreme warriors from the divinity to fight before? Lady Cyan Luan, you must be invincible. Cyan Luan could tell the sarcasm in Lu Li's voice. She said coldly, If you say yes, I will ask Uncle Nine to leave and we will have a fair fight. Really? The scorn on Lu Li's face grew. He waved his hand and said, Fine. Tell your divinity's supreme warrior to leave. We will have a fair fight. You are responsible for your own life. With that said, the demon slayer appeared in Lu Li's hand. Endless fighting spirit rose up from his body. The murderous intent surged out from his body like huge waves that could topple mountains and overturn seas. Miss. Uncle Jio's turbid eyes flashed. He stood in front of Qing Luan and said, Miss, you don't need to come out personally to deal with this kind of person. Let me do it. As a supreme warrior in the divinity, Uncle Nine could sense many things from Lu Li's murderous intent. How many had Lu Li killed? Only then could there be such a powerful murderous aura and such a terrifying aura? Even though Cyan Luan's fighting capacity was good, Uncle Nine felt that she was no match for Lu Li. That was why he overstepped his authority. Lu Li once again put on a sarcastic smile. He looked at Cyan Luan provocatively and said, Lady Cyan Luan, is this the duel you were talking about? The people from your Azure Prince mansion are indeed powerful. I admire you. Cyan Luan's expressions changed. She glared at Uncle Jio and said, Uncle Jio, step back. This is an order. Seeing that Uncle Jio was about to say something, Cyan Luan took out a cyan token and said, Uncle Jio, to see the Emperor Qing token is to see the family patriarch. Step back. Yes, Mississippi, Uncle Jio made up his mind and stepped back slowly. He looked at Lu Li and said, Lu Li, Lady Cyan Luan is the next successor that I, Emperor Qing, have designated. If you kill her, Emperor Qing will hunt you down in person. He will mobilize all the powerful warriors of the Yuyan land to kill you. You should know this. Ha ha ha. Lu Li didn't know any secret skills. He answered Uncle Jio directly, I hate being threatened the most in my life. Craftsman's sect threatened me and I killed their patriarch of the Hall of Combat and many powerful warriors of the Craftsman's sect. Later, Yu Qingtian threatened me and I killed Yu Linglong. Old man, I respect you for being young, so I'll give you some face. Take your family's young miss and leave now. Otherwise, once the battle starts, if I can't stop and young Miss Qing Luan dies, don't blame me for being ruthless. You talk big. Cyan Luan flew into a rage. The bow in her hand glowed as she yelled, Uncle Jio, leave now. I am wearing the Phoenix armor. Apart from supreme warriors in the divinity, Who can kill me? Uncle Gio's eyes flickered. He made up his mind and left. Before he left, he sent a message to Luli. Young Master Lu, I am begging you. Whatever happens, do not harm our young lady. She is just a willful and belligerent girl. She is not a bad person. Luli felt better after hearing this. He nodded. Uncle Gio left quickly. After a while, Cyan Luan asked, Luli, can we start now? Yes. Luli shouted. He waved his hand. The space in front of him began to tremble. Following that, an invisible force pressed down. He who strikes first gains the upper hand. This young lady must have treasures all over her body. Luli could not let her make the first move. After all, she was the next successor of Emperor Qing. She must have many powerful skills and secret skills. Cyan Luan was about to make a move when she realized she could not. Her pretty face turned cold. However, the armor on his body lit up, and rays of red light flashed. Following that, the power of space actually became chaotic. She abruptly drew her bow and shot out a fiery red flaming arrow. This arrow, Luli squinted his eyes in fear. He felt a dragon of fire was rushing toward him. The space around him became scorching hot. He sensed danger in his soul. If he were to be hit by the arrow, he would be incinerated into ashes. Yaeo! Luli shouted to himself. The golden mountain flew out from behind him and expanded to stand in front of Luli. When the fire arrow hit the golden mountain, a muffled explosion sounded. Next, the fire arrow exploded and flames filled the sky. The surrounding temperature rose even higher, and the ground below was scorched red. Whoosh! While retreating, Luli ordered Yetsong and Yaeo, Yetsong, suppress her. Yaeo, stop her fire arrows. Is this girl going to fight back? Boom! Yaeo controlled the green mountain to fly over. It expanded to 3 miles in an instant and pressed down on Cyan Luan as fast as a clap of thunder. Boom! The ground in an area with a radius of 300 miles trembled. Cyan Luan was pressed down. That being said, the armor she was wearing did not break her bones. She only spat out some blood. She was pressed down by the mountain. Even though she tried her best to push the mountain away, she could not move. Whoosh! Luli flew over and stood at the edge of the mountain. He used psychic power to check on Cyan Luan, who was pressed down on the ground, and said coldly, Lady Cyan Luan, you have lost. Chapter 1527. I have lost, I have lost. Cyan Luan was pressed to the ground with her face down. Her posture was quite ungraceful. She was still in a daze after hearing Lu Li's words. It had only been the time for 10 breaths and she had lost? She was the successor of the Palace of Cyan, known as the chosen one of the young generation of the Yuyan land. How could she lose so easily? She had always thought that few among the young generation could compete with her. Apart from supreme warriors in the divinity, not even the more powerful super mighty warriors in the divinity could defeat her. This time, she was full of confidence. She thought she could defeat Lu Li easily and restore the reputation of the young generation of the Yuyan land and the Palace of Cyan. Little did she expect that she would lose in 2 rounds and in such an embarrassing way. Whoosh! A man came from the distance. Uncle Nine didn't go far. He had been quietly checking on the situation. He was relieved to find that Cyan Luan was fine. He looked at Lu Li with fear. Lu Li had defeated Cyan Luan in 2 moves. His reputation was well-deserved. Someone who could fight against Yu Qingtian was not an average person. Uncle Nine flew over, looked at Lu Li and said, Young Master Lu, let's call it a day. Lu Li smiled and stepped back quickly. He waved his hand and the mountain flew up. It shrank until it was the size of a thumb and flew back to the back of Lu Li's head. Whoosh! Cyan Luan flew up from the ground. Her face and body were dirty and her hair was messy. She no longer had the noble temperament of a young lady. Her eyes were red and she was filled with killing intent. She said nothing as soon as she came out. She was about to rush toward Luli. Uncle Nine was scared and hurried to catch up. Cyan Luan glared at him and said, "Uncle Nine, step back. This is a fight between me and Luli." How could Uncle Nine step back? Luli had been merciful just now. What if Cyan Luan was killed because of Luli's anger? Uncle Nine grabbed Cyan Luan and said, "Young lady, we, the Qing Wang family, can afford to lose. Now that we have lost, let's call it a day. In the future, when you are more powerful, you can come back and fight Luli." Uncle Nine's meaning was clear. Since she was no match for Luli, she must admit defeat. Or else, she would only be humiliated. Unless Uncle Jiu did it himself. But Uncle Jiu knew that Qing Luan's heart was higher than the sky and would not let him do it. Cyan Luan stopped on the way. She stared at Luli, who was standing in the distance calmly. She felt humiliated. Even though Luli was standing there calmly with no expression on his face, and he didn't say a word, she felt that Luli was mocking her silently. She knew very well that if Luli could defeat her once, he could do it again. Not to mention Luli, she had treasures all over her body, didn't she? Sometimes treasures were also a form of strength. Her eyes flickered for a moment. She clenched her teeth and said, "Okay, Luli, I, the Cyan Phoenix, admit defeat this time. But I will get back at you. The day I become a paragon of the God world, I'll definitely look for you." Luli smiled. Cyan Luan's character was not bad, and she was reasonable. She didn't let Uncle Nine do it by force. If it was another young master or young mistress from another family, they would definitely get their subordinates to take revenge after losing face. This Qing Luan still had pride in her bones. "Okay." Luli nodded. "You are welcome to challenge me at any time. But don't cry when you lose." Cyan Luan snorted and flew into the distance. She was dirty and in a sorry state, but her back was straight like a proud peacock. "Let's go." After Cyan Luan left, Luli flew into the distance at once. This place was no longer safe. He must leave at once or many would come to him. If one Cyan Luan came to him, there would be a second and a third one. This time, the divinities Cyan Luan did not make a move. But would other divinities Paragon do it next time? Luli did not know. All he knew was that he must leave at once. Blood Fairy was scouting ahead while Luli hurried on. For several times, he wanted to fly away. That being said, this was the ancient demon's burial ground. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he would not do anything rash. What if he was blasted out by the inhibition formations here? Or killed by the inhibition formations? Let's go. Leave the ancient demon's burial ground at once and fly away. Luli made up his mind. He could not stay at the Buzhou Mountain any longer. He decided on a direction and asked Blood Fairy to lead the way. Together they dashed over. After walking for half a day, the road ahead was blocked, and there were quite a lot of people. There were 6 of them, and all of them were super mighty warriors in the divinity. Luli did not look at the other 5. Instead, he looked at a young master. This young master was dressed in a beautiful robe. He had an extraordinary bearing. Clearly, he was from a major family. Luli had a headache dealing with disciples from major families. If he killed them, he would offend a major family. If he did not, he would entangle himself in trouble. The 6 of them were obviously waiting for Luli. They spread out and surrounded Luli from afar. Luli stood still on the spot. The 6 moved closer. The young master in a silver robe said, "I am Qi Xiaobai of the mansion of North Prince. Are you Luli?" Another young master from the immortal Wang family. "No wonder you need 5 super mighty warriors to protect you." Luli felt troubled. He nodded and said, "I am Luli. Young Master Qi, what can I do for you?" "Nothing." Qi Xiaobai put on a smile. He seemed to be kind, but deep in his bones, there was a coldness that kept people at a distance. "I heard that you are powerful? You even got a primordial treasure. I am here to meet you. These young masters and young ladies have nothing better to do. Luli pouted. He thought about it and said, "A day ago, Lady Cyan Luan of the mansion of Qing came to see me as well. She also said that she wanted to meet me. But she has gone back now. She said that she will come back for revenge when she becomes a supreme warrior in the divinity. Young Master Qi, I don't think there is any bad blood between us. I don't want to hurt our relationship." Cyan Luan, Qi Xiaobai and the other 5 were taken aback. Cyan Luan was more famous than Qi Xiaobai. She was the designated successor of the mansion of Qing. They all knew that Cyan Luan came out. They also knew that Cyan Luan had a supreme warrior in the divinity with her. If Luli was telling the truth, they would have to think twice before making trouble for Luli. Qi Xiaobai asked after some thoughts, "Luli, is Brother 9 of the Qing family not with Cyan Luan? What do you think?" Luli sneered and said, "Your family's escorts are not with you. Do you have the guts to run around by yourself? Do you think your family's lord will be at ease?" "You!" Qi Xiaobai was enraged. The sarcasm in Luli's tone was so obvious. A glint of killing intent rose in Qi Xiaobai's eyes. If it were not for Luli's reputation and his previous words, he would have given the order to kill Luli. "Enough!" Luli waved his hand. Space began to tremble. An invisible force came down and trapped Qi Xiaobai and the other 5. Chapter 1528. Luli had gone to the distance, but the warriors could not move. After the time for several breaths, a powerful warrior mobilized divine energy and managed to disturb the space force that was suppressing them. Only then could the warriors move. Is that the fundamental principle of space? One of the deity world's super almighty sighed and said, "Space, time, destruction, life, these 4 great true intents are the highest true intents." Luli is so young and yet, he has learned such a powerful fundamental principle of space. It is true that he can suppress Cyan Luan. Qi Xiaobai was not convinced. He snorted and said, "The fundamental principle of space can suppress super mighty warriors in the divinity but not supreme warriors in the divinity. How can Brother 9 of the Qing family be defeated so easily?" Given Cyan Luan's character, an old warrior explained, "I don't think she will let Brother 9 of the Qing family do it. People of the Qing family are always arrogant. I don't think Luli is lying." Qi Xiaobai snorted but didn't say anything else. Just now, he couldn't even move. Clearly, he was no match for Luli. Admit it or not, Luli did have the right to be arrogant. "Let's go back and cultivate." After a while, Qi Xiaobai waved his hand in grief and indignation. As a young master of the mansion of North Prince, he was suppressed before he even had the chance to do anything. This was a great disgrace. "Luli, just you wait. I, Qi Xiaobai, will get back the glory that I have lost with my own hands." Qi Xiaobai made up his mind and rushed down the mountain. Soon, he disappeared into the mountains in the distance. Luli was also rushing down the mountain. But he kept running into warriors. He didn't want to kill them. Every time, he would use force in heaven and earth to suppress them and then leave quickly. Since a force had sold Luli's whereabouts, many warriors were gathering here. On his way down the mountain, Luli ran into 5 teams. Luckily, none of them were too powerful. The most powerful ones were the super mighty warriors in the divinity. A day later, Luli made it down the Buzhou mountain successfully. On his way, he found many cyan red stones which Little White consumed. Little White was reluctant to see Luli going down the Buzhou mountain. "I'll bring you back later. Let's leave first. Otherwise, if a few immortal world paragons come, we'll be in great danger." Luli told Little White and put it back into the wicked bead. At the same time, he used psychic power to check. He was relieved to see that Qi Shi'er was cultivating quietly. A few days ago, Luli accidentally saw Qi Shi'er urinating outside the cave. He didn't know what to do now. The most mysterious part of a girl who was as pure as a piece of white paper was seen by a man. This matter could not be explained clearly. Luli didn't even know how to face Qi Shi'er. He had to deal with it coldly for now. Whoosh, 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 just as they descended Mount Buzhou, two groups of people rushed over from the left and right. There were quite a lot of them, about 30 to 40 people in total. The battle prowess of this group of people was not bad. The strongest among them was a super mighty figure of the immortal world, while the weakest was comparable to a deity on the list. There were many mighty figures in the immortal world. Luli is over here. Kill Luli and the spiritual treasure will be ours. Everyone, let's attack together and kill him. Kill! Before they got close, they were shouting and yelling. Many of them took out their weapons and were ready to use their skills. Luli didn't want to kill more people. However, he was enraged by what they said and what they were doing. "Yeo, take care of them," Luli said angrily. The golden mountain whooshed over and enlarged in the sky to a radius of 3 miles. Then, it came down at a horrifying speed. What is that? Move away! Is that the spiritual treasure of chaos? Run! The warriors sensed the power of the mountain. They were taken aback and tried to step back. However, the mountain was too fast. What was more, when the mountain came down, there would be a strong pressure. The warriors were all trapped. Apart from one super mighty warrior from the divinity, none of the others could run away. Boom! The mountain came down. The ground within a radius of 300 miles, including Mount Buzhou, was shaking. The more than 30 warriors were all pressed into the ground. Most of them were reduced to a puddle of blood. Only one super mighty warrior and several other mighty warriors from the divinity could keep their bodies intact. Hiss, hiss, one of them gasped and ran away in terror. Luli said in a cold voice, "Tell everyone that I will kill anyone who dares to make trouble for me. Let's go." The commotion here was huge. Soon, many people would be attracted over. Luli moved on quickly, trying to avoid the center of the storm. Unfortunately, he kept moving forward and ran into more enemies. It was possible that the message he asked someone to pass on did not spread out. Or, it was possible that no one cared. Charge! Luli was enraged. Since these people were after his treasures and wanted to kill him, then they should be prepared to be killed. He was not a kind person. If no one would listen to his kind words, then he would kill his way out of the ancient demon's dead ground. Once Luli made up his mind, he did not hesitate anymore. He dashed out of the ancient demon's dead ground, killing along the way. Anyone that approached him, anyone that wanted to harm him, Luli would not say a word. He would let the mountains crush them. This time, because of the primordial spirit treasure, too many people had come to the ancient demon's dead ground. Some small forces were led by a mighty warrior from the divinity and dozens of average immortals. Admittedly, those people were audacious. They could sacrifice their lives for the treasures. 3 days. In merely 3 days, Luli had covered a distance of millions of miles and met countless warriors. He himself could not remember how many he had killed. If not 5,000, then at least 3,000. Anyways, as long as they dared to approach him or showed hostility, he would not say a word. The mountains would whooshing over and kill them directly. The 3 mountains were treasures. With the 3 mountains, Luli was not afraid of any super mighty warriors from the divinity. Even if dozens of super mighty warriors from the divinity came, Luli could have 2 mountains to protect him and the other one to kill many. The mountains were terrifyingly strong. When many super mighty warriors from the divinity attacked, they could not even push the mountains back, let alone destroy them. Today Luli stopped. For the first time, he seemed to be in a serious mood. On the top of a small hill stood a beautiful lady, blocking his way. If Lu Shi were here, he would try to seduce this lady because she was stunning in both looks and temperament. No. This lady was powerful as well. Even though she was more than 3 miles away, Luli could still feel his heart palpitating when he saw her pearl-black eyes. Just one look at this lady had given Luli a sense of danger. Only supreme warriors from the divinity could make him feel this way. The lady stared at Luli from the distance. Even though there was no strong killing intent, Luli could tell right away that this lady was not here with good intentions. She was probably here for the mountains. P.S. I have been writing for a day and I have written 4 chapters. I have deleted 2. Chapter 1529. The lady was wearing a sky blue robe that seemed to be made of silk. The robe clung to her body and vividly portrayed her devil-like curves. She must be born in a big family. She had developed an air of nobility since she was a child. This kind of temperament could not be cultivated easily. It must be nurtured for many years, just like Pan Yuqin or the Cyan Phoenix. Boys should be brought up in poverty and girls in wealth. There was some truth to this saying. If a boy did not go through some hardships, he would never become a man of indomitable spirit. If a girl could have a good education and living conditions when she was young, it would be easier for her to develop a good temperament. The lady stood there quietly, like a bright moon hanging in the sky. The most attractive thing about her was her pearl-like eyes. Usually, girls were the most spirited when they were young. Gradually, they would lose this spirit as they were worn down by the mortal world. Even though the lady in front of Luli looked like an adult, there was a spirit in her eyes, which made her particularly attractive. Luli only took one look at her and he would never forget her for the rest of his life. Of course, it was hard to forget a supreme warrior in the divinity. Should I leave right now? Luli thought about it. He was more than 3 miles away from the lady. If he were to draw a formation right away, he should have enough time to run. Once he flew into the void, he would be hundreds of millions of miles away. Not even a supreme warrior in the divinity could catch up with him. Luli thought for a while, but he did not run right away. For one thing, he was not at the edge of the ancient demon's perished ground. The space here was not stable. For another, he had defeated a supreme warrior in the divinity before. He had 3 mountains. He could fight. Also, he had a feeling that this lady must have a high status. She would not kill at the drop of a hat. Therefore, Luli did not move or say anything. He just stared at the lady in the distance. A jade talisman appeared in his hand. It was the mechanism to teleport to the stone forest. Back in the days, he built a one-way teleportation formation in the stone forest. He could use this jade talisman if things went south. You are Luli, right? Seeing that Luli was not talking, the lady suddenly smiled and said, Do you have the guts to come up and have a chat? A beautiful woman asking a man if he has the guts? Luli's words were meant to provoke Luli. That being said, the blood in Luli's body was still burning. He thought about it and walked to the top of the hill. Behind him were 3 mountains. His silver hair danced in the wind, which added to his charm. He walked up the hill step by step, his eyes fixed on the lady. His eyes were clear, without any lust, although there was still admiration for the lady's beauty. The lady didn't do anything. She put on a gentle smile. The killing intent around her was gone. She was like an old friend, waiting for Luli to come up casually. Whoosh, on the hill, Luli kicked on the ground with one leg and flew up. He stood more than 1,000 feet in front of the lady. If a supreme warrior from the divinity were to make a move at such a distance, Luli might not even be able to react. Luli's expressions didn't change. He even bowed slightly, cupped his fists and said, "Greetings, Lord." "My lord?" The lady's voice was pleasant to the ears. She put on a gentle smile and asked, "You are bowing to me? Aren't you afraid that I will do you harm? How dare you stand so close to me?" Luli smiled and said, "I am bowing to you because I respect your power. That is how warriors show respect to powerful warriors. As for being so close to you, if you want to make a move, is there any difference between 1,000 feet and 1,500 feet? Ha ha." The lady nodded and smiled gracefully. After a pause, she said, "Let me introduce myself. I am Ling Qinyan and I am here to see you." Ling Qinyan? Luli frowned. He didn't know this name and he didn't know who this lady was. He hadn't been at the Yuyan land for long and he didn't like to ask about the names of powerful warriors there. Therefore, he knew nothing. He shrugged and said, "Young lady Ling, what can I do for you?" "Young lady PFF," Ling Qinyan smiled sweetly. She looked at Luli, amused and annoyed at the same time, and said, "You don't know who I am? How can you call me young lady?" Luli blinked and said in embarrassment, "I am sorry, lady Ling. I don't know much about the Yuyan land. Where are you from?" "Prince Yan's mansion," Ling Qinyan said. "You know about Prince Yan's mansion?" "Yes, I do." Luli nodded. Without thinking too much, he asked directly, "What can I do for you, Lady Ling? Please get to the point." "I want to take your treasure," Ling Qinyan said calmly. Seeing that Luli didn't change his expression, she asked with curiosity, "You are not afraid of me? Or do you think you have the ability to fight me? You think too highly of me." Luli stared into Ling Qinyan's eyes and said, "If you want to take my treasure, I will have to accept my fate. But you are a supreme warrior in the divinity. I don't think you want my treasure. Otherwise, why would you tell me so much? Also, I don't think you mean me any harm. You are an interesting man." Ling Qinyan looked at the mountains in the distance and said with a smile, "At first, I did want to take your treasure. After all, I don't have the Chaos Treasure yet. But this is not the Chaos Treasure. You have 2 more mountains that you haven't tamed, right? If you can combine the 5 mountains, then it will be the real Chaos Treasure. Also, I don't think I can bully a young man like you. So, I changed my mind." Ling Qinyan was honest and Luli believed that she was telling the truth. He said awkwardly, "Should I thank you for sparing my life?" "Ha!" Ling Qinyan smiled again. She turned around and said, "Luli, you are a talented man. Do you want to consider joining Prince Yan's mansion? You can be a patriarch for sure, let alone others." Luli didn't even think about it. If he wanted to join, he would have joined Prince Yan's mansion years ago. He shook his head and said, "Thank you for your kindness. But I want to try it on my own." "Okay." Ling Qinyan didn't push Luli. She waved her hand and said, "Brother, be careful. There are some old guys here. I don't want to do anything to you, but it doesn't mean they won't. If you want to join Prince Yan's mansion in the future, you can come to the King of Yen City to look for me. Just tell them you are looking for Ling Qinyan." Ling Qinyan kicked on the ground and flew up. She turned around with a smile, and then flew away in a blur. Soon, she vanished into the sky in the north. Luli watched as Ling Qinyan left. In his mind, he was still thinking about her beautiful smile. What he didn't know was that a person came out from behind him. That person asked, "Ling Qinyan is pretty, right?" "Yes," Luli answered out of instinct. Then he suddenly turned around. His hair stood on end. But when he saw who it was, he let his guard down. He said with a bitter smile, "Lady Qin, you come and go like a ghost." Chapter 1530. The most famous one? Lamia? Luli was surprised. Since ancient times, it was hard for girls to admit defeat. If 2 girls were similar in looks and temperament, who would admit defeat? Pan Yuqin was a beauty herself. Now, she said in public that Ling Qinyan was the most famous one. It meant that this Ling Qinyan was indeed famous. How is she famous? She eats people up? Is she a vicious woman? Lu Li asked with curiosity. Pan Yuqin turned around and said to Lu Li, "You don't know who she is? She is the current Prince of Yen." Prince of Yen. Lu Li was shocked. Of the 9 immortal kings, Prince of Yen seemed to be one of the best. It was actually such a beautiful woman. She seemed to be friendly. She was the famous Prince of Yen. No wonder Lu Li didn't react when she mentioned Ling Qingyan's name. She was surprised. Pan Yuqin explained. She is the illegitimate daughter of a branch of the Ling family. At first, she couldn't enter the family tree. She was bullied and suffered a lot at the Ling family. But she is very talented. She can cultivate at a fast pace. I think she has an immortal body. When she became a super mighty warrior in the divinity, she was only 23. A super mighty warrior in the divinity at 23. Lu Li was shocked beyond words. But on second thought, Pan Yuqin was young. She must be a super mighty warrior in the divinity by now. Young Master Qi, Bai Qingluan and Xian Luan were all talented young masters and young ladies. There were 2 talented young masters in that generation of the Ling family. Pan Yuqin continued, but the 2 childs died inexplicably. This made the king of Yen very angry. He ordered a thorough investigation, but nothing was found in the end. The matter was left unsettled. More than a decade later, Ling Qinyan went into a dangerous place and was trapped there for 10 years. When she came out, she became a supreme warrior in the divinity. 3 years after she became a supreme warrior in the divinity, that Prince of Yen died for no reason as well. Ling Qinyan took the throne by force and killed tens of thousands of people in the king city of Yen who were against her. All died for no reason? Even the Prince of Yen is like this? Lu Li was taken aback. King Yen must be a supreme warrior in the divinity, and he must be powerful. How could he die for no reason? Do you now know why the people of Yuyan Pass call her a Lamia? Pan Yuqin smiled and said, although there is not much evidence, everything points to Ling Qinyan. In addition, after she ascended to the throne, she actually killed all of his brothers and sisters. This person's vicious name spread throughout the land of Yuyan Pass. There are all sorts of rumors in the land of Yuyan. In short, they all talk about how she murdered her clan brothers, how she plotted to kill the king of Yen, how she massacred her relatives and clansmen to ascend to the throne. Lu Li didn't say anything. Ling Qingyan's elegant and noble face appeared in his mind. He didn't look like such a vicious person. Moreover, she had such a pair of beautiful eyes. Would such a woman really do such a thing? There was one more thing. Since she was Prince Yen, then she must be very powerful. She could defeat Lu Li easily. But in the end, it didn't happen, which made Lu Li feel less disgusted by her. Alright, let's not talk about Ling Qinyan anymore. Since she didn't cause you any trouble, it will be hard for you to see her in the future. Pan Yuqin ran her fingers through her hair and said to Lu Li, Young Master Lu, I don't think it is suitable for you to stay at the land of Yuyan Pass. My suggestion for you is to hide in the divinity. Hide in the divinity? Lu Li touched his nose in embarrassment. He had committed a crime in the divinity and had to hide in the land of Yuyan Pass. Now, Pan Yuqin was asking him to hide in the land of Yuyan Pass? Yes. Pan Yuqin nodded with certainty. Even Ling Qinyan can come to you. Do you think other supreme warriors in the divinity won't come looking for you? You have killed so many people at the ancient demon's graveyard. Many families will unite to deal with you. Whether you have the chaos treasure or not, there will be powerful warriors coveting it. Once you fall out with an immortal king family, the consequences will be unimaginable. That's because the 9 God Kings are united. Once a God King clan is challenged, the other God King clans will lend a helping hand. Unless you can destroy a God King clan before they react, you'll be able to replace them. Luli understood now. At this rate, one day, he would have to face the immortal king families. By then, he would not only have to face the retaliation of one immortal king family, but 9 immortal king families working together. By then, he would have become the enemy of the entire land of Yuyan Pass. Where could he hide? Go back to the divinity and hide for a while. Pan Yuqin said softly. The divinity has quieted down. Nobody will know that you are back in the divinity as long as you keep a low profile. Don't you have armor that can make you invisible? I can give you a mask of the best level. Nobody except supreme warriors in the divinity can see your real face. Stay in the divinity for a few years. When things settle down, you can come back. As she spoke, Pan Yuqin's interspatial ring glowed. She took out a mask and handed it to Luli. Luli took it over. He pouted and said, "What have I done to deserve such affection from you, Lady Qin?" Pan Yuqin glared at Luli. Her pretty face was filled with shame and anger. Luli was taken aback. He must have said something wrong. He was right to say, affection. But Pan Yuqin was an unmarried girl. Wouldn't it be ambiguous to say affection? Luli wanted to explain, but he knew that it would only make things worse. He decided to be thick-skinned and say nothing. Pan Yuqin looked into the distance for a while before she said, "Young Master Lu, do you remember what you and I said? You said you were going to kill your way back to the divinity, and I said I would be in it. I have high hopes for you. You are not an ordinary person. I will wait for the day when you can kill your way back to the divinity. If I have the honor to fight side by side with you and wipe out the 4 legendary forces, then my life will be worth it." Ha ha ha. Luli laughed. He was filled with lofty sentiments. Looking to the south, he said, "That is my lifelong goal. It is my honor to fight for the world with you, Lady Qin, hand in hand." Ahem, Luli realized he had said something wrong again. The words, hand in hand, had an ambiguous meaning. He sneaked a peek at Pan Yuqin. She was blushing again. Glaring at Luli, she said angrily, "Young Master Lu, I don't know if you have the ability to wipe out the divinity. But you are quite good at flirting with girls. I wonder how many girls you have flirted with before." "Then what?" Luli was embarrassed. He felt he could never clear his name. Gazing into the sky, he forced a smile and said, "Ha ha, today's weather, ha ha ha." Pan Yuqin rolled her eyes and said, "The weather is not good today. Dark clouds cover the sky. It is going to rain." "Ha ha." Luli scratched his head and said with an embarrassed smile, "That is what I meant. It is going to rain. Lady Qin, go back and put away the clothes." PFF. Chapter 1531. Pan Yuqin left. She left behind a human skin mask, a supreme relic. Luli covered his face with the mask. His facial features changed. He became a gloomy middle-aged man. With just a thought, the mask of character could change continuously, and it could turn into another face at any time. "Cloaking armor!" Luli shouted, and the cloaking armor appeared. Luli didn't go invisible. He just let the armor cover up his entire body, including his head. Only his disguised face could be seen and his silver hair, which was the most eye-catching part. "Let's go." Luli hurried toward the ancient demon's dead land. This time, it was much smoother. He ran into many warriors along the way, but nobody paid attention to him. His portrait had been spread across the Yuyan land. Back in the days, Yu Qingtian's portrait was plastered all over the city. His silver hair was eye-catching. Now, he was a different person. The mask was impressive. Only supreme warriors in the divinity could see through his disguise. Several super mighty warriors in the divinity checked him with psychic power but could not tell who he was. Soon, he arrived at the stone woods. This time, he didn't run into Quicksand River. Luli didn't mind. This was the outer edge of the ancient demon's dead land. He could fly away at any time. This afternoon, Luli ran into another supreme warrior in the divinity. This supreme warrior flew over from the distance. At first, he did not notice Luli. Luli stood on the ground with respect, not daring to move. He wanted to wait until the supreme warrior flew away. What? Something is wrong here. The supreme warrior used psychic power to check. Luli did not notice at first. But when he used psychic power again, he noticed something was wrong. His body suddenly stood in midair, and the murderous aura on his body poured down like a monstrous flood. Move. Luli began to draw a formation in midair as soon as he sensed something was wrong. Before the supreme warrior in the divinity could react, Luli snuck into the small golden door and flew away. Boom. As soon as Luli flew away, the supreme warrior in the divinity realized what was going on. Unfortunately, by the time he launched an attack, Luli had vanished and so did the small golden door. With a slap, the hill Luli was on was flattened. A huge handprint was left on the ground. Flying in the void. It is Luli. The divinity supreme warrior's eyes flickered. Then, he waved his hand and shouted angrily to the people behind him, "Send out a message. Look for Luli. He ran away as soon as he saw me. He must have a primordial spirit treasure on him." Swish. The people nearby were alarmed by the commotion, and as they drew closer, they heard the god world paragons bellow. After the divine world paragon left, they immediately spread the news. Because this divine world paragon was the leader of a transcendent grade faction, the more the news spread, the more bizarre it became. Later on, it was said that Luli had obtained the Chaos Spirit treasure, and that he had even survived the attack from a supreme warrior in the divinity. Now that Luli had managed to escape with the help of the primordial spirit heavenly treasure, the supremacy of the divine world was already mobilizing people to hunt Luli down. Later, the focus of the news was not on Luli and the supreme warrior in the divinity, but on the mysteriousness and power of the primordial spirit treasure. The more the news spread, the more people were tempted. That was a primordial spirit, heavenly treasure they were talking about. If they could get their hands on it, their battle prowess would skyrocket. Even ordinary people could sell it for a sky-high price. The news began to spread beyond the ancient demon's dead ground, and then to the entire Yuyan land. Many forces were tempted. What was more, Luli was alone. He did not have any major forces to back him up. People were happy to see Luli being beaten up when he was down. What was more, there were rumors from the East King Valley and the North King Mansion that the East King and the North King were unhappy with Luli. In a matter of days, Luli had become the target of scorn, hated by everyone. Many people of the Yuyan land began to take action, searching for Luli all over the world. Luli had the ability to teleport and the human skin mask. Regular warriors could not find Luli even if he was standing right next to them. Luli kept teleporting. He was going to hide in the divinity for a while as per Pan Yuchin's advice. Actually, Luli wanted to go back to the divinity as well. He had been at the Yuyan land for so many years. The divinity should have calmed down by now. What was more, even if the craftsman's sect wanted to track him down, it would not be that easy. Putting aside the fact that his soul concealment battle armor could only be detected by the immortal world's super almighties, with his current battle prowess, it was impossible to detect him. Given his current abilities, unless a supreme warrior from the divinity sneaked up to him, Luli could kill all the super mighty warriors in the divinity and then he could teleport away. He wanted to go back to the divinity to find out about Lu Ling and see if there were other ways to go back to the Earth Imperial Universe apart from the Spacetime Office. He also wanted to find out if anyone from the Earth Imperial Universe had ascended to the divinity. What if Lu Renhuang and Bai Qiushu had? Luli was lucky. He had been flying in the void without being noticed. Every time, he would use the cloaking armor. As soon as he came out, he would sneak down. Every time he teleported, he would be outside the wilderness with no one nearby. Lu Li's soul was strong now. He could teleport for more than a dozen times. That was to say, he could only teleport across 20 prefectures in a row before he felt tired. Lu Li did not stop to rest. He flew across the void in one breath. He crossed the south-central part of the Yuyan land and arrived at the desert. Goodbye, Yuyan land. Maybe I will come back after a while. Maybe. I will never come back. Standing in the desert, Lu Li looked to the north and exclaimed. On second thought, he let Qi Shear out. She had been sitting in there. Maybe she had reached a bottleneck, or maybe she was thinking about something else. She was not in the mood to cultivate. Brother, out of instinct, Qi Shear was happy to see Lu Li. But then, she blushed. Out of instinct, Lu Li remembered what happened outside the cave at the Buzhou mountain. He pretended that he knew nothing and said with a smile, Shear, I am going to leave the Yuyan land for a while. I wanted to talk to you. Qi Shear was nervous. She grabbed Lu Li's hand and asked, Brother, are you going to leave me behind? Of course not, silly girl. Lu Li patted Qi Shear's head lovingly and said, I am just telling you. After all, you grew up in the Yuyan land. I am afraid that you will not be used to leaving with me. Okay, Qi Shear let out a long breath and looked around curiously. She said with some excitement, Brother, where are you taking me? As long as I'm with you, I'll go anywhere. The divinity. Lu Li pointed to the south and said, We are going to the divinity. The Yuyan land is not peaceful these days. We will stay there for a while and then come back. The divinity, Qi Shear blushed with excitement. For the people of the Yuyan land, they were like prisoners exiled to the border. The divinity was the prosperous central area. For many people of the Yuyan land, their biggest wish was to go to the divinity and see this beautiful and prosperous world. She nodded and looked up at Lu Li. I will go with you. As long as you do not leave me behind, I will do anything. Ha ha, let's go. I will take you to roam the world. Chapter 1532. The divinity was still bustling with activity. The world would never change just because someone was missing. Even if the 4 legendary forces in the divinity were wiped out, the shock would only last for a while. After a while, the divinity would return to its former glory. Cloud Stream City, a city in the central region. After Lu Li went around the valley, he flew to the Cloud Stream City. He made sure that nobody was around before he snuck into the distance. After traveling for 300 miles and making sure that he was not seen, Lu Li let Qi Shear out and gave her the silver fox mask for her to take control of. Nobody in the divinity could recognize Qi Shear, but she was too pretty. Beauty was a source of trouble. Sometimes it was not a good thing for a woman to be too pretty. It could cause trouble. Lu Li knew nothing about the divinity, so he did not dare to act rashly. Qi Shear had completely blossomed. If she was like a flower that was about to blossom, now she was like a flower that had just bloomed. She had a nice figure. Even though she was not as attractive as Ling Qingyan, her back was enough to attract many people's attention. Therefore, Lu Li asked her to wear a mask. At least, she could cover herself up and save a lot of trouble. Brother, am I in the divinity? Qi Shear blinked. After Lu Li confirmed it, she took out a cushion and sat on the ground to take control of the silver fox mask. She was as powerful as a mighty warrior in the divinity. It only took her the time for several incense sticks to burn to take control of the mask. Buzzing. After Qi Shear put on the mask, her face turned into a silver fox. Coupled with her slim figure, she did not lose much of her beauty. Instead, she looked pretty. Brother, do I look good? Qi Shear took out a bronze mirror and looked at it. Then, she turned around. Lu Li grinned. Qi Shear is the prettiest. You can look good in every way. Qi Shi'er put on the mask, but her mouth, chin and eyes were still visible. Hearing Lu Li's words, she smiled and her eyes turned into crescent moons. Let's go to the black market and buy a citizen's identity. Lu Li used to be a citizen of the Vicissitude House, but he did not dare to use it now. Also, Qi Shi'er did not have a citizen's identity, so they could go together. Lu Li had many divine sources and he knew there were black markets everywhere. Especially since this was the Yunxi prefecture. Many people from the land of Yuyan needed to buy a fake identity when they came here. Given Lu Li's abilities, he found a black market easily after walking around in an area with a radius of 30,000 miles. The black market was on a mountain with a powerful formation of illusion, but Lu Li could sense it easily. He walked toward the mountain with Qi Shi'er in strides. Before they got close, the scouts in hiding had come out and kept an eye on them. Lu Li was wearing the cloaking armor, emitting a powerful energy. Qi Shi'er was wearing a white floral dress, looking elegant. The scout didn't dare to offend them. He bowed and said, "Sirs, this is private property. We don't accept outsiders." Lu Li smiled. He took out 1,000 divine sources from his interspatial ring and threw them on the ground. "We are not strangers. My friend recommended us to buy something." The scout collected the divine roots on the ground, and a smile appeared on his face. He nodded and bowed, saying, "Esteemed guests, please enter." Qi Shi'er grabbed Lu Li's hands, nervous and excited at the same time. The scout led the way. After they entered a mountain path, the scenery in front of them immediately changed. A large bluestone path appeared, winding all the way up. Qi Shi'er used psychic power to check the mountain. She was surprised. There were dozens of castles on the mountain, and she didn't see any from the outside. "Ha ha!" Lu Li patted Qi Shi'er's back and said, "There is a formation of illusion here. You can't see anything from the outside. Just follow me." Holding Lu Li's hand, Qi Shi'er was calm. They walked up step by step. At the peak, an old man came to greet them. He bowed and said, "Welcome to the Snow Cloud Hall. Do you need to stay here for a while or do you need to buy something? Find us a quiet yard." Lu Li threw over an interspatial ring which contained 10,000 divine sources. The old man took it over and smiled. He led the way with respect. As far as he could tell, Lu Li must be a young master of a big family who was out with his lover. This kind of master would be very generous when served well. Didn't he tip Lu Li 10,000 divine sources just now? There were many castles on the mountain. Some of them were guarded by guards. Lu Li didn't pay much attention to them after a quick glance. The army here was not strong. There were only a few immortals on the list. The warriors here posed no threat to Lu Li. The chief steward showed Lu Li and Qi Shi'er to a yard by the cliff. Looking from the backyard, one could see the cliff. The view was breathtaking. Lu Li and Qi Shi'er came in and looked around. They were both satisfied. After they paid the divine sources for half a month, Lu Li asked Qi Shi'er to go to the backyard to enjoy the view. He showed the chief steward to the front yard and said directly, "I need 2 jade talismans." "Jade talismans?" The chief steward looked at Lu Li with alarms. He had thought that Lu Li was a young master of a big family. How come he wanted to buy jade talismans? The chief steward asked with hesitation, "Young master, why do you want them?" Buzzing, Lu Li took out a ring and put it on the table. "There are 1,000,000 divine sources here. Do you want to take it or not? If not, I can go to other houses. Also, you'd better keep your mouth shut about things you are not supposed to know. It is not good for you or the Snow Cloud Hall." Even though Lu Li was wearing a human skin mask and looked like an elegant young master, his energy was still horrifying. Lu Li himself was a mighty warrior in the divinity. How could a mere chief steward stand it? "My lord, please calm down." Seeing that Lu Li's eyes were turning cold, The chief steward bowed and apologized. Then, he picked up the interspatial ring, made up his mind and said, "Okay. My lord, please wait a moment. I will have it arranged." There were too many cases of jade talismans being sold. Drifting Cloud Hall would not be held accountable even if something were to go wrong. Only idiots would turn down divine sources. The Drifting Cloud Hall was a black market chamber of commerce that specialized in shady business. In the time for 3 incense sticks to burn, the chief steward came back with 2 jade talismans of the Cloud Stream Mansion. Luli took them over and put them away after making sure they were all right. Bang! Luli threw out another interspatial ring. Sitting leisurely, he said, "There are 1,000,000 divine sources in here. If I am satisfied with your answers, they are all yours." "I have met a tycoon." The chief steward's eyes glowed. He didn't take the interspatial ring. Instead, he cupped his fists and said, "Young master, please ask. I will tell you everything I know." Luli picked up the tea and blew on it. Waving his hand, he said, "First, tell me about the major events in the divinity over the past 10 years. "What major events?" The chief steward blinked. He began to tell Luli one by one. "Many have happened in the past 10 years. Personally, I think 3 are the most significant. First, Lady Luo Huang of the Craftsman's sect made a holy grade relic and became a master craftsman. It is said that the master of the Craftsman's sect has chosen her as his successor. Luli didn't expect that the first piece of news he received as soon as he returned to the divinity was about Luo Huang. What was more, she had become a master craftsman. Chapter 1533. Luli had a deep impression of Luo Huang, not only because she was a beauty, but also because she was the granddaughter of Patriarch He and the adopted granddaughter of the Craftsman's sect master. It was also because of the conflict between him and Luo Huang. Luli remembered that she slapped Luo Huang's chest and pushed her into the water. Luo Huang was the champion of the competition of craftsmen. Back then, she had already made a supreme relic. However, in such a short time, she had become a master craftsman. She was talented in forging artifacts. How difficult was it to become a master craftsman? Patriarch Gu, Luli's teacher, had become a master craftsman many years ago. However, he could not make the final step. In addition to Patriarch Gu, many patriarchs in the Chamber of Relics had been studying for their entire lives. Some had been obsessed with forging artifacts for hundreds of thousands of years. Yet, they could not make the final step to make a holy relic. It was understandable. For example, many people in the mortal world were one step away from ascending to the immortal realm. However, they could not make the final step. Forging artifacts was the same as cultivation. If one could not make a holy relic, one could not be a master craftsman. Even though he was hostile to the craftsman's sect, Luli did not dislike Luo Huang. He was surprised for a moment before he asked, "What is the second thing?" "The second thing is that several years ago, a land of treasure was opened." The steward paused for a moment and his face revealed a hint of pain as he said, "This treasure land was once the residence of a very famous exalted expert. In order to fight for the treasures inside, all the major forces of the god realm sent their experts over to fight for it. Our Snow Cloud Hall also sent people over. Naturally, there was a fight. Blood flowed like a river. Hundreds of thousands of warriors were killed or injured, all of them powerful warriors. We, the Snow Cloud Hall, suffered a great loss. In the end, the 4 supernatural forces intervened." The steward said nothing more, but he seemed to be indignant. Luli understood right away. The major forces fought hard with many casualties. However, after the 4 supernatural forces intervened, the major forces were no longer involved. The treasures were divided up by the 4 supernatural forces. The major forces had died in vain. After a moment of silence, the steward continued, "One more thing. Last year, the Cabinet of Mysteries released new lists. such as the list of talents and beauties. The top 3 of the genius ranking have caused a huge commotion. The number 1 on the genius ranking has already entered the top 500 of the god ranking, and is hailed by the god world as the most likely person to become a supreme existence in the god world. Genius ranking? Lu Li's pupils contracted. He remembered that Lu Ling seemed to be the second on the list. He asked at once, "What is her ranking on the divinity list?" Lu Ling? The steward paused for a second and then said with embarrassment, "Lu Ling is the number 1 on the list. Last time the list was released, she was the number 2. Last year, she was the number 1. Last time, he was ranked in the top 10,000. This time, he directly entered the top 500, which caused a huge commotion in the god realm." Lu Li was taken aback. Lu Ling had made it to the top 500 of the divinity. How fast was she in cultivation? However, on second thought, if he could get on the divine list, he would probably be able to get into the top 200. After all, he could even suppress the super almighties of the divine realm. Was Lu Ling his sister or not? Also, who was the mysterious expert who had given him the void-crossing divine art and helped him several times? Was he from the Lu Ling family or not? Lu Li was curious and confused. He also wanted to meet this Lu Ling. After a while, Lu Li asked, "Do you know anything about Lu Ling, the number 1 on the list? Like what force she is from and where she is now? If you can tell me, these divine roots will immediately belong to you." The steward bitterly smiled and said, "The information of this mysterious girl on the genius ranking has always been kept secret. It feels like she came out of the ground. No one knows which force she comes from, and she rarely shows herself in public. Even if she does, she will wear a veil. Nobody can see her face. Young master, you are making things difficult for me." Lu Li frowned and looked awful. The steward thought about it and said, "Young master, if you want to find out about this person, I think you can go to the Cabinet of Mystery. As long as you have divine sources, the Cabinet of Mystery can get you any information." Cabinet of Mystery? Lu Li forced a smile. If he dared to go to the Cabinet of Mystery, his identity would be exposed at any time. He could not get any information about Lu Ling. Instead, he would have to deal with the supreme warriors of the craftsman's sect. The 4 forces were similar to the 9 immortal kings of the land of Yuyan. They were of the same breath and branches. They would rise and fall together. Lu Li would not take the risk. He was not that stupid to send himself to be slaughtered. He thought about it and asked, "Apart from the Cabinet of Mystery, do you think there are other forces that can get information?" "Yes." The steward answered without hesitation, "There is an assassination organization that is good at getting information. Their main business is to sell information. Assassination is secondary." Lu Li's eyes glowed. "What organization? Where is their headquarters?" "Hall of Bloodblade." The steward took out a map, pointed to a place and said, "It is said that their headquarters is at the Snow Eagle Mountain at the junction of the 3 prefectures." Lu Li took over the map. The Snow Eagle Mountain was in the northeast of the divinity, not far away. If he flew in the void, it would only take him a couple of days to get there. "Okay, the divine sources are yours now." Lu Li nodded. The steward thanked him and left. Lu Li walked into the backyard with the map in his hand. He had been thinking along the way. If he were to fly in the void continuously, even though he had the cloaking armor, he would still attract attention. After all, when he came out from the void, there would be a small golden door. "I must go to the Snow Eagle Mountain." When he reached the backyard, Lu Li made up his mind. He could take the teleportation formation. It wouldn't take too much time if he could teleport continuously. He did not lack divine sources. He must find out about Lu Ling. What was he doing in the divinity? The main reason was to find Lu Ling. For him, Lu Ling was more important than anything else. What was more, he had a feeling that this Lu Ling was his sister. Otherwise, how could it be so coincidental? She came out of nowhere and had the same name? And all of them are young women? But what he could not figure out was, if this Lu Ling was his sister, why didn't she contact him? Given Lu Ling's character, she would try every means possible to find him. Something must have gone wrong, or Lu Ling had her own difficulties. Brother? Xier saw Lu Li coming in. She happily took his hand and said, "This place is so beautiful. Brother, how long are we going to stay here?" "Not long." Lu Li patted Qi-Shier's hair. He looked to the east and said gently, "We are going to leave soon. We are going to find someone who has been in my dreams for years." Chapter 1534. Dream and Soul. A strange look flashed through Qi-Shier's eyes. She couldn't help but ask, "Brother, is the person you're holding on to a woman?" "Ha ha ha." Looking at how nervous Qi-Shier was, Lu Li laughed. He knocked her head and said, "What are you thinking about in that little head of yours?" "I am looking for my sister. We have been separated for many years. She is in the divinity, and I am going to find her." "Oh, it is my sister?" Qi-Shier smiled. She stuck out her tongue and said, "Then let's go and find my sister. No hurry. Let's rest for a day." Lu Li waved his hand. He took Qi-Shier to a pavilion nearby. The pavilion was by the cliff. They could see the hills and rivers down below. It was a nice view. There was a formation of illusion around the mountain, but it did not stop the wind. It was comfortable to sit here. Buzzing, Qi-Shier took off her mask. She smiled sweetly and said, "I will not go out today. I will stay in the backyard. I don't need to wear a mask." "Okay." Lu Li nodded. He sat on the side to cultivate and rest. He had been flying in the void for a long time. He was tired. Battles could break out at any time in the divinity. It was not good to be weak. Therefore, he wanted to rest. Qi-Shier, on the other hand, wasn't tired. She walked around the backyard and ate a lot of snacks. Compared to the land of Yuyan, the food here was different. Qi-Shier enjoyed the food. There was a tree by the cliff with a swing under it. It was fun to swing on the cliff. Qi-Shier was young and playful. She swung around on her own and let out a tinkling laugh. Lu Li was alarmed by the laughter. He smiled and went back to cultivation. Qi-Shier's laughter was not loud, but there were some yards nearby. There were some guests in the yard. Her laughter attracted some psychic power. They saw that it was just a little girl playing around. Many of them withdrew their psychic power. However, there was a young master in the courtyard on the left who didn't take it back. After he saw Qi-Shier, he was shocked and his mind went blank. Qi-Shier's beauty could mesmerize Yu Linglong. How could a young master resist her? Qi-Shier realized that many spiritual wills were looking over and her face immediately turned pale. She noticed that the young master had his psychic power locked on her. She got off the swing and put on her mask. She ran back to Lu Li and sat down nervously. Lu Li noticed it. He opened his eyes, looked at Qi-Shier and asked, "What is it?" "Shier." Qi-Shier pursed her lips and smiled. "It's nothing. Brother, continue resting. I'm going to cultivate too." Lu Li closed his eyes to rest without thinking too much. Qi-Shier thought she was fine, so she sat next to Lu Li with her legs crossed. However, a moment later, a hint of anger appeared on her pretty face because that young man's divine will had been locked onto her, making her feel very uncomfortable. It was not her place to tell Lu Li. She glared at him angrily and went back to cultivating with her eyes closed. The young master seemed to sense Qi-Shier's dissatisfaction and retracted his spiritual will. Just as Qi-Shier thought that everything was fine, the young master brought an old man into the air and flew over to this courtyard. There was an inhibition formation in the yard, but Lu Li didn't activate it, because he was about to leave, so he didn't think too much about it. He didn't expect that someone from a nearby yard would fly in. Luli was alarmed at once. He opened his eyes, which were glaring in coldness, like a dragon that had just woken up. Being stared at by Luli, that young master felt like he was being stared at by a beast. He trembled and stopped in his tracks. The old man behind him was surprised. Luli was only a mighty warrior in the divinity, but he was so powerful. The old man, a super mighty warrior in the divinity, felt threatened. Luli looked away soon. He frowned. This young master had a super mighty warrior in the divinity with him. He must be a young master from a super family. Luli had just returned to the divinity. Would it be inappropriate to kill him now? Soon, the young master was enraged. He was a mighty warrior in the divinity with a super mighty warrior behind him. He felt humiliated that he was frightened by Luli at first glance. The young master was shrewd. He calmed down and walked to the pavilion, cupped his fists and said, "I am Chao Qijian. Please forgive me for visiting you so abruptly. Young master and young lady, I am fond of making friends. Can I sit with you?" Qi Shir lowered her head and sat next to Luli, saying nothing. Usually, when Luli was around, she would say nothing and let Luli handle the situation. Luli threw Chao Qijian a glance. His eyes were still cold and emotionless. After a pause, Luli said, "Is there anyone who doesn't use the front door to visit someone else's yard? I am resting. Please go back." Luli finally realized what was going on with Qi Shir. If it were not for the fact that he thought it was better to avoid trouble, he wouldn't have been so nice. Luli swallowed his anger and humiliation, but he didn't appreciate it. Instead, he looked awful. This Chao Qijian might be famous. He introduced himself and Luli didn't react at all. Instead, he asked them to leave. Luli didn't give him any respect. Chao Qijian glanced at the old man behind him. The old man snorted and said, "My family's young master is a genius ranked in the top 100 of the genius rankings. The Chao family is also a famous family in the north. There is no one in the north that doesn't give our Chao family face. Aren't you afraid that you will get into trouble by neglecting our young master?" While he was speaking, the super mighty warrior in the divinity was still releasing his violent energy. Qi Shir found it difficult to breathe. Luli was enraged. He stood up, looked outside and shouted, "Where are people from the Snow Cloud Hall? Is this how you do business? You think anyone can break into my yard?" "Ha ha ha!" Chao Qijian laughed out loud. The old man behind him put on a mocking smile. Chao Qijian clasped his hands behind his back and said nothing. The old man behind him said, "I don't think you are from here. Don't you know that the Snow Cloud Hall is one of the properties of the Chao family?" "What?" Luli noticed that many people were checking in with psychic power. The warriors of the Snow Cloud Hall didn't react. A glint of coldness rose in Luli's eyes. The wicked bead in his hand glowed as he took Qi Shir in. Looking at the two coldly, Luli said, "Please leave my yard at once or you will face the consequences." "Consequences?" Chao Qijian put on a mocking smile. Luli and Qi Shir didn't look familiar and they didn't introduce themselves. They must not be from a super family. What was more, if they were from a super family, how could there be no escorts? A glint of coldness rose in Chao Qijian's eyes as he shouted, "I think they are spies from the land of Yuyan. Take them down." Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Chapter 1535. Spy. Luli curled his lips. This man really knew how to do this. By identifying Luli as a spy, he could shirk all responsibility even if something were to happen. However, he had just come from the land of Yuyan, and could be counted as a spy. "That's right, he's a spy." All of a sudden, a steward came from the front yard. Pointing to Luli, he said, "This man has just bought an ID Jade talisman and he is asking me about the divinity. If he was not someone from Yuyen Pass, how could he not have an identity jade seal? How could he not know about the God realm? Chao Qijian put on a sarcastic smile. He was just making a casual remark. He didn't expect that Lu Li really was a spy. He stepped back, waved his hand and said, "Take him down!" "Wait." Lu Li waved his hand and shouted, "Anyone who is still at the Snow Cloud Hall, listen up. If you are not from the Snow Cloud Hall, please leave at once. Otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless if you're killed by mistake." As Lu Li spoke, his murderous intent spread out. Because he had killed too many people and had learned the Slayer's move, his murderous intent was particularly strong and frightening. Whoosh, 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 Lu Li's voice was loud, which alarmed many people. After they checked with psychic power, most of the guests rushed down the mountain at once. Lu Li was a mighty warrior from the divinity, but his killing intent was so strong. On top of that, there was a super mighty warrior from the divinity on Chao Qijian's side. It was like a fight between immortals. How could an average warrior get close? "Since you're afraid of implicating the innocent, why don't we go out and play?" Chao Qijian asked as he rolled his eyes. After all, this was his family's property. It would not be good to destroy something if they fought here. Hee hee. Lu Li smiled. The three mountains whooshed out from the wicked bead and flew around him. At the same time, the thunderclap armor and the demon-slaying blade appeared on his body. Ha! With a casual sweep, a blood-red saber gleam lit up and whizzed towards the front yard. The steward was in the front yard. The matter of him preparing to go to the Snow Eagle mountain range was known by this housekeeper. Thus, this person had to be killed to prevent his whereabouts from being leaked. Boom, boom, boom. There were only 7 or 8 soldiers there, and they were all ordinary warriors. Lu Li's divine energy was abundant and the Slayer's move had become overwhelming. The 7 or 8 soldiers and stewards were instantly killed. The saber radiance continued whistling through the air, destroying row after row of castles and palaces. "Take him down!" Chao Qijian roared furiously. However, the elder beside him did not move because the elder's mission was to protect Chao Qijian. The Snow Cloud Hall had hundreds of warriors and 7 or 8 mighty warriors in the divinity. It was impossible that they could not defeat Lu Li. Suppress. Although Lu Li was not afraid, he didn't want to be besieged by a group of people. He waved his hands heavily, and an invisible force instantly pressed down, immobilizing everyone. The deity world's super almighty's face fell, because even his body was unable to move. The divine power in his body was circulating crazily. His lips moved slightly as he transmitted his voice. "Mister, everything is negotiable. Don't act recklessly. Go." Lu Li waved his hand. A mountain whooshed over. It was not large, only with a radius of 1,000 feet. The mountain rolled forward like a war machine. Boom, 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 all the castles and palaces that were hit by the mountain were blasted into smithereens. Many warriors were smashed to death as well. In the time for a few breaths, the mountain spun around the peak. Not a single building remained intact on the mountain. All were destroyed. Go to hell. Lu Li made several moves with the Demon Slayer. Ripples spread out in space. Then, one warrior after another exploded. Not even the mighty warriors in the divinity could stand it. They were blasted into a mist of blood. In the time for half an incense stick to burn. In such a short time, the entire Snow Cloud Hall had turned into hell. Apart from Chao Qijian and the few warriors with him, everyone on the mountain was killed. Some of them might not be from the Snow Cloud Hall, but Lu Li had warned them that those who dared to stay and watch must pay the price. They must bear the consequences of their own choices. Lu Li had made up his mind to eradicate the source of trouble. He must kill everyone here in case the information would leak out. After killing those people, he looked over at Chao Qijian. His lips curled into a smile as he said, "Young Master Chao, right?" Chow family is powerful? Do you think you can do whatever you want? Do you think nobody in the divinity can compete with the Chow family? As far as I can tell, your family is nothing. There are too many families in the divinity that are more powerful than yours. To destroy your family is a piece of cake. As Lu Li spoke, he let the spatial force disappear. Chao Qi-jin and the others could move again. But nobody dared to move. They were all subdued by Lu Li's means. He could defeat everyone with a raise of his hand. Not even a super mighty warrior in the divinity could do anything to him. Was he a supreme warrior in the divinity? That super mighty warrior in the divinity wanted to take Chao Qi-jin away at once. But he didn't. If Lu Li could defeat them easily, he could not run away. He made up his mind. Cupping his fists, he said, "Lord, we are as blind as a bat. We apologize for offending you. Lord, if you have any requests, please tell us. We will try our best to fulfill them." Apologize? Lu Li sneered. Pointing at the dead warriors with the demon slayer, he said, "If an apology could work, these people wouldn't have to die. Request? My request is simple. You let Chao Qi-jin waste his cultivation, and you must pay me 100 billion divine sources. That is the end of it." 100 billion, Chao Qi-jin blacked out. He almost passed out. It was true that the Chao family was a super family in the north, but it was difficult for them to pay 100 billion divine sources. To pay 100 billion divine sources for a young master? Not even their family patriarch would agree. He would rather give up Chao Qi-jin. To pay for his own cultivation. If Chao Qi-jin's cultivation was ruined, even if the Chao family could use some treasured materials to help him recover, he would have less room for improvement. He would be stuck at the divinity for the rest of his life. How could the Chao family spend 100 billion divine sources on a disciple with no future? His eyes reddened and his breath shortened. He said, "Killing is but a small matter. Young master, don't go too far." The super mighty warrior in the divinity was twitching. Lu Li was pushing Chao Qi-jin to a dead end. He thought about it and said, "Lord, your request is too difficult. How about this? Let young Master Qi-jin live and I will negotiate with my family about the divine sources. I will try my best to give you a satisfactory answer." "Okay, I can take a step back." Lu Li raised his eyebrows. With a mocking smile, he said, "I will let you all go and you will pay me 1 billion divine sources? How about that?" Everyone was stunned. Why did Lu Li suddenly change the topic from 1 billion to 1 billion? Chao Qi-jin reacted quickly. He nodded and said, "Okay, I can give you 1 billion divine sources. But after you take it, you cannot tell anyone about what happened today. You cannot, no." The old warrior next to Chao Qi-jin was frightened. Chao Qi-jin was a pig. How could he threaten Lu Li when he was at death's door? Also, he felt that Lu Li's offer of 1 billion divine sources was a joke to Chao Qi-jin. Ha ha ha. Chapter 1536. Boom, boom, boom. The twisting of space was so powerful that several warriors and a mighty warrior in the divinity were shredded into pieces at once. Chao Qi-jin watched as the warriors in front of him exploded one by one. His soul trembled. He knew that soon, he would be shredded into pieces like the others and die forever, becoming a passerby in this world. No, no. He was originally suppressed and couldn't even speak, but at this moment, he forcefully roared out a few words. He wanted to say that the offer of 100 billion divine sources was negotiable. However, the ripples in space had spread out. He could not shout anymore. He realized that his supreme relic armor was torn apart. Then, his body was being torn apart by the twisting force in space. "Young master!" The old warrior shouted in sorrow. He knew that he would not survive. Therefore, he did not fight back. Instead, He took out a jade talisman from his belt and crushed it. He had to inform the Chow family and ask for powerful warriors to come and kill Luli to avenge them. The Chow family patriarch was a supreme warrior in the divinity. There were more than a dozen super mighty warriors and patriarchs in the divinity. The Chow family was a force. Hoi! Luli made 2 more moves. The ripples in space spread out. The last divinity super mighty warrior was killed. Just now, Luli offered 100 billion divine sources for fun. Of course, if Chao Qijian could offer 100 billion divine sources, Luli could spare his life. After killing the super mighty warrior in the divinity, Luli took the warrior's interspatial ring. After a while, Luli decided to fly away. It was not a wise choice to go to a city and teleport. His whereabouts would be easily exposed. Luli chose to fly to the south. This time, he was not so lucky. He appeared near a tribe. It just so happened that there were people from the tribe nearby. They were working together to kill wild beasts. Luli was wearing the cloaking armor and he was invisible. Therefore, when he came out, nobody noticed him. But many people were surprised to see that golden door. Why would there be a golden door in the sky? As soon as Luli saw people, out of instinct, he wanted to kill everyone nearby to prevent the information from leaking out. However, he only saw some low-level immortals. There was a girl, a young man, and 2 elders. Roar, roar, a desolate beast was wreaking havoc nearby. It had already killed quite a number of warriors. There were even some young men and women who had died under the desolate beast's feet. Taking advantage of the group of people's shock, the dire beast charged forward. With a sweep of its sharp claws, it killed a few tribal warriors. The remaining warriors began to fight against the wild beasts with bloodshot eyes. Luli wanted to kill, but he hesitated after seeing the situation. This group of people were innocent, unlike those who had chased him before. What was more, this group of people were clearly weak. There were so many young girls and old people. How could Luli kill them? In the time for a few breaths, 2 more warriors were killed. Luli could not stand it any longer. That being said, he could not take action or he would lose his stealth mode. As he pondered, he flew towards the leopard-shaped desolate beast. With a tap of his leg on the desolate beast's head, he flew into the distance. Luli didn't do anything, so he didn't expose himself. That being said, the wild beast was alarmed. It sensed Luli's energy and went after him, roaring. The tribe people were surprised to see the desolate beast running into the distance. The desolate beast had gained the upper hand. Why did it leave all of a sudden? While the tribe people were confused, they heard a muffled noise in the distance. Several people went over to have a look. To their surprise, the desolate beast was killed. What is going on? Those people circled around the area and came back to report. The tribe leader, an old warrior who could fight as well as a prefecture warrior, said after some thoughts, "A powerful lord helped us kill the desolate beast." A powerful warrior? The young boys and girls were filled with admiration. So many of their tribe members had died and yet, they could not kill the desolate beast. That powerful warrior did not make any sound. They could not even see him. How could the desolate beast die? Grandpa Patriarch. A young girl wiped the blood off her face and asked with curiosity, "Since that lord helped us kill the desolate beast, why didn't he show up? So that we can thank him. I am curious who this lord is." "Say no more." The tribe leader waved his hand and said sternly, "The lord must have his reasons for not showing up. We cannot ask or say anything. Everyone should keep their mouths shut about this matter and pretend that nothing had happened today. The Golden Gate did not show up. Anyone who dares to say anything will be punished according to the tribe rules." This tribe leader was quite dignified. The others kept quiet out of fear and dared not to say another word. Luli observed for a while and nodded to himself. The tribe leader must be having doubts about his identity. But the tribe leader did not have the courage to think too much or report him. The tribe leader knew Lu Li's abilities very well. Lu Li had not helped them. On the other hand, if they dared to say anything, Lu Li could easily wipe out an entire tribe. Lu Li was relieved that the information would not be leaked. He turned around and left. 30 miles later, he made sure that nobody was nearby. Then, he flew away again, this time toward the northeast. He was lucky that he did not run into anyone. Lu Li let Qi Shi'er out and took her to a nearby city. He didn't dare to fly recklessly in the void anymore, otherwise, his identity would be easily exposed. Now that he had brought Qi Shi'er to the divinity, he could not keep her in the wicked bead all the time. Qi Shi'er was a young girl, and she was curious about the divinity. Since he had decided to teleport away, Lu Li had to let her out so that she could have a look around. Lu Li changed his armor and the human skin mask. He had changed his appearance to that of a dignified middle-aged man. Qi Shi'er changed her attire as well. Under Lu Li's guidance, she was dressed as a member of a strange race. Her hair was tied up in a ponytail, and she wore some strange ornaments. Her silver fox mask was changed as well. She looked like a lady of a special race. Qi Shi'er asked about the Snow Cloud Hall, and Lu Li gave her a casual explanation. Qi Shi'er was a simple-minded girl. She did not overthink and followed Lu Li to a city. Lu Li had the jade talisman he bought. That chief steward was killed, and all the insiders were silenced. Therefore, Lu Li was not worried that his enemies would track him down based on the jade talisman. Qi Shi'er was overjoyed when they entered the city. There were only 9 cities in the land of Yuyan, where the immortal king lived. When she was little, she wanted to go to the King Pan city, but Qi Junfeng did not take her. Now that she was in a city in the divinity, she found everything new and interesting. This is just a small city. Lu Li took Qi Shi'er's hand. From the outside, he looked like a loving father holding his daughter's hand. Looking at Qi Shi'er fondly, Lu Li said, "We will teleport for dozens of times first. When we arrive at a big city, I will show you around. There are many fun places in the big cities." Okay. Chapter 1537. Chao Qijian and the others were killed, and the Snow Cloud Hall was leveled to the ground. This caused a sensation in the north. Chao family was not the absolute overlord of the north, but it was still one of them. Their family patriarch was a supreme warrior in the divinity. Disciples of the immediate family and a super mighty patriarch were murdered. This was a slap on the face of the Chao family. All the Chao family members were enraged. Chao family patriarch was enraged. More than a dozen patriarchs went to the Snow Cloud Hall to investigate. All the low-grade martial artists that escaped that day had been found. However, after investigating for several days, the information obtained was very limited. They only had a rough idea of Lu Li's appearance and a girl in a mask. Both of them seemed to be mighty warriors in the divinity. When Lu Li's portrait was drawn, the intelligence department of the Chao family acted immediately. However, they found nothing. The intelligence department compared the portraits of the young warriors in the divinity. None of them matched Lu Li's appearance after he changed his appearance. Qi Shi'er was taken in. She did not say anything or do anything. Therefore, the Chao family targeted Lu Li. They mobilized many people and resources. Carrying Lu Li's portrait, they cast a net in the north to search for him. Lu Li had teleported for over 100 times. He had arrived at the east of the divinity. He was sure that he was safe. He took Qi Shi'er to a big city to rest. The city was prosperous. There were all kinds of shops, pubs, tea houses and places to have fun. After Qi Shi'er rested for half a day, she took Lu Li on a tour around the city. They bought many small items that Lu Li thought were meaningless. Lu Li was not in need of divine sources. He had several billion divine sources with him. Therefore, as soon as Qi Shi'er showed that she liked something, Lu Li bought it for her at once. He had even bought her many beautiful dresses and a lot of food. He had even brought her to a top-notch restaurant for a meal. After a day in the city, Chi went back to the tavern with Luli, feeling satisfied. She was filled with happiness. When Luli sent her back to their room, she suddenly took his hands and said, "Brother, this is the happiest day I've ever had. Thank you." "Don't say thank you." Luli patted Chi's head and said gently, "I am useless. I cannot give you a peaceful life. You have to live in fear every day." "No." Chi suddenly put a finger on Luli's mouth and said, "Brother, I won't allow you to say that. You don't have any obligation to help me. If it weren't for you, I don't know if I would have the courage to live. Big Brother has given me a lot, but I haven't given him any help. If someone has to apologize, it should be Chi. Alright, let's not talk about this." Luli smiled and said, "Since I'm your brother, I should do whatever I want. In the future, I will also work hard to make your life better. I will find a chance to kill you and avenge your father. And I believe in you." Chi nodded heavily. Then, her eyes suddenly turned gentle. She blushed and bravely said, "Brother, you said I was still young in the past. Am I still young now?" As she spoke, Chi puffed out her chest. If it had been a small lotus before, it was now quite large. Luli glanced at her out of instinct. His heart skipped a beat when he saw Chi's rosy cheeks. A shy smile from a young girl and a tender look in her eyes were the most touching scenery. Luli was a normal man. How could he stay calm? But Luli had enemies all over the world. How could he be in the mood to talk about love? Chi was a good girl, and he had always seen her as a younger sister. Therefore, he could not change his mind. He could die at any time and Chi would be a burden for the rest of her life. Therefore, after some thoughts, he made up his mind and said, "Chi, you don't have much contact with the outside world. There are many outstanding men in the world who are more suitable for you than me. I think you should get to know them more and give yourself more choices. You don't have much life experience. Maybe you can't even differentiate like rely on and love. Don't make decisions blindly. You need to give yourself more time and choices." "No." Chi's eyes reddened. Her pretty face was filled with stubbornness. She looked up at Luli and said, "Brother, I have thought it through. So what if there are millions of outstanding men in the world? As far as I am concerned, you are the best man in the world. There is a difference between like rely on and love. But I am sure that what I feel for you is love, the purest love. If I lose you, or if you don't want me anymore, I think I will die. I will be like a flower without soil. I will wither and eventually I will become a pile of dirt. Brother, take Chi. Chi suddenly hugged Luli and said seriously, "I am not a kid anymore. I know very well that the love between a man and a woman is different from that between a brother and a sister. Chi likes you and loves you. You're my ideal husband. You're worthy of Chi's love. Brother." Tears ran down from Chi's pretty face. She looked so pitiful, like a puppy being abandoned by its owner. Even Luli's heart of stone would soften. He thought for a while and reached out to wipe away Chi's tears. Then, he gently kissed her forehead and said seriously, "How about this, Chi? I'll give you 3 years and you give me 3 years. If you haven't changed your mind in 3 years and I can change you from a sister to a brother, I will take you." 3 years? Chi was disappointed. Soon, she nodded with determination and said, "Okay, I will wait. As long as you want me, I will wait for 30 years. Silly girl. Luli's heart was soft and peaceful. All these years, he had been suffering, tired, and exhausted. Men were not made of iron. They needed rest and release pressure. Chi was like the purest land, the most gentle harbor. She could comfort Luli's heart no matter how tired he was. "Brother, can you stay for the night?" Chi suddenly made a request. Then she blushed as if she was afraid that Luli would misunderstand. She said in a low voice, "I just want you to sleep with me in your arms. I don't want anything else." Okay. Luli didn't have the heart to say no. He knew that Qi Shir lacked a sense of security, and he was confident in his self-control. That night, Luli spent the night in Qi Shir's room. They lay on the bed and did nothing. Luli held Qi Shir in his arms and she soon fell asleep. She looked peaceful and there was a sweet smile on her face. She was like a little girl in her parents' arms, sleeping soundly and comfortably. Smelling the fragrance of a young girl from Qi Shir, Luli slowly fell asleep. He knew that this was a rare moment of peace and he must cherish it. He could not predict what would happen next. Maybe the days of peace would be fewer and fewer and the challenges would be greater. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.